Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for choosing me and thank you so much for joining the session. A very warm welcome to each and every one. And before we proceed to the topics, there are just a few things to be discussed. So once it's all done, we'll just jump into the topics. So since this is a pre-recorded session, you can watch it at your ease. Like it's going to be almost a 3-hour workshop. So you can watch it all together or in bits and pieces for 10 days from now. And once you're done doing that, you will be provided with WhatsApp support for 3 days where you can ask all your questions. So since this is something that is a bit new that we are doing when compared to the couple of previous generations, when I talk about certain things, when I start explaining about certain things, certain questions, doubts might pop up inside you. Make a note of it. Okay, ensure that you make a note of it. In case if I've addressed it in the session, well and good. If not, please feel free to reach out to me through WhatsApp. So it's not mandatory for you to reach out only through the WhatsApp group, but you can also reach out to me through personal chat for those specifically mentioned 3 days. Okay, so that's a promise. I'll ensure that I respond each and every one of you. All right, and unfortunately, due to practical difficulties, it is quite impossible to handhold everybody either throughout their journey or somewhere in the middle of your journey. If you come back to me asking some questions, if I'm not able to respond to it, it's purely unintentional because every day there is a lot of messages that are coming up. So for me to be able to scrutinize, I'm only able to do that to the people that I make a promise for those specific number of days. So apart from that, I do try my level best to respond to other questions and queries as well, but still a lot gets missed out because at the end of the day, I am the only one who's managing this when it comes to WhatsApp chat. So I'll not be able to delegate this work to anybody else. So it's just me who is managing it. So practically, it is not possible. So don't mistake me if I don't respond a little later. So I'll give you a few resource details that you can reach out to whenever you get any questions or doubts so that it gets resolved. Okay, so one such resource is a Facebook group called as Traditional Weaning India. Okay, so it's a Facebook group. There is no Instagram group, no WhatsApp group. It's basically a Facebook group, Traditional Weaning India. Okay, this Traditional Weaning India Facebook group, there are moderators over there who will help you out with your questions whenever you ask any. So there'll also be other parents who can support you with your own experiences and knowledge. And you'll be able to see multiple videos of these tiny little ones having, rice, aloo paratha, and then, vegetables, fruits, meat, and whatnot. That will give you a lot of confidence as well. So this particular Facebook support group was very, very helpful for me. I'll also be sharing a few other parenting support groups on Facebook, which helped me during my initial days. So I hope that helps you as well. Okay. And as a part of the PDF, as part of the session, a PDF will be shared to all of you. So the PDF will have 30 different meal ideas to start with, 30 different breakfast ideas, 30 different lunch ideas, and then snacks ideas, dinner ideas. Okay. And also, whatever we discuss in the session, the important points will also be a part of the PDF, but still, you make a note of whatever you would like to refer to in future. Okay. So that will be very helpful as well. All right. The idea of sharing the PDF is because, it's to break this monotonous schedule that is being fixed over these babies who are starting with solids. So whenever, our child is getting ready for solids and, people start to get to know about it, we often get suggestions like ragi puree, apple puree, banana puree, Cerelac, ragi puree, apple puree, banana puree, ragi puree, apple puree, Cerelac. This keeps going on for a longer period of time. And then after a certain while, either the child gets completely bored with whatever the child is eating, becomes very monotonous. And, they start rejecting every single food that is being offered to them, including these foods sometimes. Or some children get so comfortable and fixed with just these 2-3 varieties, and they're not open to try different other varieties later. So if you ask any parent about what would you like your child to eat when the child is around 1 year or 1.5 or 2 years, everybody would have the very similar answer. So whatever we eat as a family. So for the child to be able to do that, we need to help them by exposing them to as many varieties as possible from the very beginning in a modified version, so that it, helps the child to build better connection with food. Multiple exposures will help the child accept that particular variety. Okay. And also the child will be more open to try new foods later in life as well. So just to break that monotonous pattern, I'm sharing this PDF with you all. This PDF is not like a mandatory chart that every child has to follow. This is the only proper way of, no, it's not like that. The PDF is to give you an idea that, oh, okay, babies who are starting with solids, they can eat these many varieties. They don't have to, be stuck under 2, 3 varieties alone. Just to make this idea clear is why I'm sharing the PDF. I've tried my level best to make the PDF, have varieties from different parts of the country. But still, if it's something that doesn't suit your family, you don't have to break your head to find the recipe and prepare a specific recipe for the baby. That is not my idea at all. That is not an ideology that I have or that I, ask my participants to do at all. I never do that. The reason is because what we do as a family is what is the best for our child in terms of sustainability for you. It makes it more easier and healthier for the child. Okay, also for the parents. So whatever we cook, if you're having a specific breakfast in the morning, let the child also have the same. Whatever you're cooking in the afternoon, let the child also have the same. So in case if you're also stuck under that 2, 3 varieties, it's time for you to make some varieties that is traditional as a part of your family itself. You don't have to bring in exotic new recipes and all. Just do simple home cooked stuffs that you generally do. So use this as a PDF as an example to curate your own meal plan. Okay. So if you would like to use the PDF and get some ideas about varieties, of course, well and good, not an issue. But what I'm trying to say is, if it is not something that you usually do as a family, you don't have to break your heads to make it. So just do whatever that works for you, and that is what is the major idea of sharing all these things. Okay. So yes, now let's jump into the topics. What is traditional weaning? What is baby led? So when you talk about traditional weaning is nothing but an adult who will sit in front of the baby. They'll take care of the mealtimes by feeding the baby. They'll either feed the baby using their own hands or spoons. It's as simple as that. Okay. So unfortunately, when it comes to our households, we have been seeing a lot of different things that people do to somehow make the child eat whatever they have fixed inside their mind. They want, their perception to get successful. Like if they have fixed it inside their mind that okay, the child should eat at least these many number of spoons or at least these many this much of a quantity, half a bowl, one bowl, or whatsoever. They start doing something or other to make the child eat. So this is happening in a lot of households. Like say, for example, the silent ones at house. Suddenly they start becoming performance artists. They start singing, they start dancing, they start, taking the child here, taking the child there, doing some drama and acting. And they even don't, hesitate to stand upside down to make the child eat. So this is what is happening in a lot of households. This is not how traditional weaning is supposed to be. Doesn't have to. Okay. So traditional weaning can be very, very gentle, inclusive, respectful, and calmer. Okay. So traditional weaning can also be done in a beautiful way. Simply there'll be an adult who will sit in front of the baby and they will feed the baby as per the baby's choice. As per the baby's choice, as in, you don't ask the baby about what would you like to have, and the child is rejecting, you go back to the kitchen, bring something else. No. There'll be a fixed menu which you will follow, and the child will decide how much to eat. And you will feed the child as long as the child is comfortable. Once the child is closing mouth tight, turning here and there, pushing the spoon away, you will stop. The moment the child is done, you will stop. So this is how traditional weaning can be done. So when I talk about baby-led weaning, recently there's a lot of limelight. So baby-led weaning is basically an age-old concept only. It's not something that's too new, basically, because even in our households when there were 10, 12 children and all, feeding all the children throughout the day is not possible for any mother. So many children in one single household. So of course, they used to keep this banana leaf and they'll put rice and they'll make children sit around together and children used to self feed. This and all was happening only even in our places. But it's just that recently, that there's a lot of benefits that people have found out, and they started, promoting this concept, which is very, very beneficial for children, right from independence, right from using a lot of skills, developing a lot of, skills like developing the pinsagrass, fine motor skills. So many such benefits are there. So one beautiful thing is that when you let the child touch the food, explore it, like, squish it, put it all over the face, put it over their head, sometimes throwing, toppling the plate. All of these has a lot of benefits for the child in the long run as well. So a child who touches, squishes, and plays with the food, they'll have better connection with food. They'll, eat well as well a little later in life. So it's just that it's going to be more of a learning curve, and it's not like a sudden boom where you start the process and immediately the child becomes a pro at eating, and you start doing this and the child eats everything under the sun. They will still have their own likes and dislikes that will be there, but it's just that the child will be more open to a lot of varieties. Child will have that connection intact with the body. How many of us adults are struggling today to identify our bodily cues? You're hungry, you're full. Your body easily gives you that cues with the help of hormones, but a lot of us are not able to realize that, and we have started doing a lot of unmindful emotional eating practices and all. Like, I'm so stressed, I would like to eat this. I'm feeling so happy, I would like to eat this. If it's dosa, I'll have two or three. If it's chutney along with dosa, I'll have these many number of dosas. So this is how a lot of adults are eating today, and they lack this connection that they have with your own body. They're not in tune with the body. There is a huge disconnection that has happened. But when it comes to children, naturally they have that connection intact right from the time of birth, which is still going to be present even after 6 months of age. It's just that we shouldn't intervene and make it difficult for the child and confuse the child. So the connection is beautifully there. Like, no matter what kind of a food it is, no matter how much they like it, they'll be like, I want this. I would like to eat this much of it, and then I'm done. So I don't want to eat this right now. I'm not hungry. They'll be so careful about what they're doing, and they'll learn a lot of other skills, basic skills, which a lot of us adults are missing today. Like, right from chewing, which is so difficult for a lot of adults today. Children become a pro at it because they start handling different textures from the very beginning. So there is a number of benefits for this concept. But what I would like to reiterate is that it's not mandatory for everybody to do Beyblade winning. So Beyblade winning is definitely a great concept, but doesn't mean that that's the only concept that any child has to follow to have a better connection with food. Traditional meaning can also be done in a proper way, so the child will still have amazing connection with the food, amazing relationship with the food. Okay, it's just that we need to follow certain rules and regulations. So if you ask me, should I follow traditional or self-feeding? It's up to you. It's your choice. So, see, traditional meaning when such distractions are coming in, like singing, dancing, using a toy, reading books, and stuff like that. When it comes in, sometimes what happens is that one distraction will lead to another distraction because it gets bored at one point of time. So you start switching to another one, and later, every distraction is going to go in vain, and then you'll reach a stage where you start forcing the child. So that is where the problem pops up. That is where the stress during meal times pops up for both the child as well as the parent, right? So similarly, Beyblade winning is a great concept, but if you're stressing yourself to follow that, then again, stressful meal times is not our goal, right? So you do what that works for you. You do what you think is going to be feasible for you. Be it traditional for a while and then switching to self-feeding later, or starting from Beyblade winning itself, like right from the very beginning, you're doing Beyblade winning. Whatever it is, whatever that works for you is perfectly fine. Or first 2 weeks you're doing only traditional, the next 2 weeks you're making it one traditional and then one self-feeding. If you're going ahead like that, that also is perfectly fine. Just that when you're doing such combination approaches, like you're fixing one meal for traditional, one meal for self-feeding, just ensure that you're not confusing the child. Like, how do you ensure that you don't confuse? If you fix a meal for self-feeding, let it be for self-feeding. Don't bring in traditional urine self-feeding method also, because sometimes, traditional method is being followed by some other person and self-feeding is followed by some other person. So for example, to be even more precise, morning the mother-in-law is available. So she is doing traditional feeding for the baby. And then, evening when the mother comes after, working, she would like to add one self-feeding meal session. The child is totally into playing, squishing and doing all of that. So what happens? The mother-in-law might start giving suggestions, mother-in-law, mother, or whosoever it is, okay? They'll start giving suggestions and they start telling things like, oh, whenever I feed the babies eating at least this much, but whenever you feed the babies always, into exploration. It is okay if the child explores, but maybe why don't you try feeding while the child is exploring? Or why don't you try feeding once the child is done exploring? Then you'll be like, okay, this makes sense. I'm allowing my child to explore. Let it improve on its own. Meanwhile, I will also feed my baby. And you start doing that. So that also becomes more like a distraction. Child is into exploring and you're, putting the food inside the child's mouth constantly. The child thinks, okay, whenever food is being fed, I should eat. Whenever food is given in my hands, I should play. So the progression will not happen. Right? So it is important for you to fix them. If you're fixing a meal for self-feeding, it is more important for you to fix it as self-feeding. Don't mix two methods during the same meal session. Okay, so when you're doing that, what can be done to help the child improve and progress is stay patient. See, though traditionally we are feeding and we are still, respecting the child's cues and all of that, this gives the sort of that happiness due to the independence, right? They'll do more of exploration. That's going to happen for a few days. A very less of eating or nil eating will be there for a few days. And then after that, they are anyways going to improve because you will sit in front of the child and you will model how to eat. You'll pick the food, bring it to the mouth, give it a bite, and you'll do all of these actions in an exaggerated way, which will grab the child's attention, which will ensure that, their mirror neurons help them mimic what you're trying to do. If not on day one, if not on day two, at least a few days later. It is going to happen, but you should patiently, consistently do the modeling part without, thinking that, oh, I'm modeling, but my baby's not at all eating. Within a few attempts. No, you should continue to do it. Have same kind of food on your plate as well and start doing the modeling part. And you will automatically see the progression. So this is what you need to remember in case you're going for such a combination approach. Now, be it you're starting with traditional or baby-led weaning, or you're going for a combination approach, whatever it is, there are certain rules and regulations to be followed to ensure that things are going peacefully for both the parent as well as the child. And that is what we are going to learn right now. But before we proceed, if you ask my suggestion, again, let me repeat, do whatever that works for you. Okay. So in case you're starting with traditional and then you're planning to switch to self-feeding, ensure that around 8.5 months or 9 months, ensure that the child is at least doing one meal for self-feeding, so that you can gradually increase the number of self-feeding sessions, and by 1.5 or 1 year and 8 or 9 months of age, the child will be completely into self. So slowly and steadily also you can transition like that. Okay, so whatever that works for you is perfectly fine. All right. Now, what's all those common rules and regulations? So the moment I spoke about is okay, the child only explores. It's okay if the child is more into exploration, less into eating, nil eating, and all you would have thought about. Then what about growth? What about nutrition part? How will they develop properly? Will it not harm them? Or what about hunger? How will it get satisfied if the child is not eating? Remember that from the time of birth until 6 months, it's exclusive breastfeeding or formula feeding or combination feeding, whatever you have been doing. That is going to be the only nutrition that the child is getting to grow and develop, right? So that's the sole source of nutrition. Now, after 6 months, yes, of course, this alone is not going to work out. You need to start with solids. But did you know that a child starts depending majorly on solids for nutrition only after 1 year of age? So from 6 months to 12 months of age, the child is still going to majorly depend on breast milk or formula milk, whatever they have been taking right from the time of birth, as the major source of nutrition. So, what about solids? Solids is going to be complementary for this 6 months period, between 6 and 12 months. So, this is more like an opportunity, golden opportunity for you to build and develop that beautiful association that the child can have with food. Create the right environment. Okay, be a great facilitator. Sit in front of the child, enjoy, eating along with the child. Provide a lot of varieties that you have as a family. So right from flavors, textures, and varieties that you consume as a family. Expose the child to as many as possible. Okay, let the child develop that association with food and learn a lot of other skills, which are life skills, which they're going to use in a longer run. So use this as a golden opportunity. The child's dependency is not much on solids. So dependency, when it is still majorly on breast milk or formula milk, when the child is not depending completely on solids, is when you'll have to use it as an opportunity and focus more on the quality rather than the quantity. Unnecessarily, what a lot of people do is that right from the time the child starts with solids, it turns 6 months of age, they give multiple meals a day, a lot of quantity they want the child to take, so that they're like, oh, growth, development, weight gain, we have to give this, that, weight gain foods. N number of weight gain foods are available on it. There is no such proven food that can help the child with weight gain. So it's about the overall calories that they are consuming. And remember, for proper growth and development, for a proper weight gain that has to happen, the child has to get the feeds as usual without any compromise. So when we say breast milk or formula milk remains to be the major source of nutrition for the child to grow and develop well, grow and thrive well, the specific set of nutrients that are available majorly on breast milk or formula milk shouldn't get displaced, shouldn't get replaced with solids. Solids should remain complementary for a while. Only around 1 year of age, dependency is going to shift majorly to solids. So when you focus a lot on the quantity during the initial few months, okay, when you focus a lot on the quality during the initial few months, you will notice that the quantity naturally improves. Okay, so in case if you're unnecessarily concentrating on the quantity, quality, everything might go for a toss. Let me give you an example. Imagine that you are attending interviews from two different companies on the very same day, okay? And fortunately, you are able to crack both the interviews. And, you're extremely becoming fortunate enough to get an opportunity to observe both the workspaces and choose whatever you would like to, like wherever you would like to work. So you're visiting the workspace one. And the moment you enter, you're able to feel that stress and pressure. Okay, so everybody are too much into the system, no tea breaks, no coffee breaks. Lunch break itself is a big deal for a lot of people over there. And the superiors are very arrogant towards the subordinates, and they're dominating a lot, not respecting them enough. There's no, incentives which are being given, no appreciation, nothing. You feel horrible just, observing that particular workspace. And now you're going to the second workspace where the moment you enter, you're able to feel a lot of peace and calmness. People are, helping each other, working towards their goals. There are deadlines, but very much, nominal, reasonable. They're taking breaks in between. They're being given sufficient lunch break. You're not able to differentiate between the subordinates and superiors. All are being treated equally. Everybody are having fun while they're working. It makes it very, comfortable for you to just be present there. Now you tell me, which one would you choose? Space one or space two? Obviously space two, right? It's given an opportunity, of course. Nobody gets that privilege, I know, but if given an opportunity, anybody would choose the second space, right? So that's because the presence of pressure, the presence of that discomfort will make you get away from any place or any work, right? The place where you feel very comfortable, happy, and not being pressured, you will also start contributing for that workspace. You will also start working towards it. So similarly, when you focus on the quantity, the children, like one example is that when they start with solids, people are like, you're always feeding the baby. Just because you're feeding the baby is not eating, come on, start dropping feeds. Don't feed the baby. Let the baby get very hungry. Once the baby's hungry, bring the plate, the child will eat. Now imagine, from the time of birth until 6 months, they've been seeing either a breast or a bottle whenever they're hungry, right? That is what they've seen. So now all of a sudden, a plate of food might not seem very appealing for them when they have that sense of hunger. So they are just starting off with solids. We cannot pressurize them to eat a certain quantity that we have fixed inside our minds. So breast milk, formula milk itself, how much to take, they have been deciding from the time of birth until 6 months. Now it's also they get to decide whether to eat or not and how much to eat, obviously. So we can't simply trust some random manufacturers who are doing bowls and spoons, like at least half a bowl, at least one bowl, at least 5 spoons, at least. From where do these calculations come from? So do you think, if you ask 20 to 25 different mothers about how much do you think a 6-month-old baby should eat, do you think everybody's answer will be the same? Some will say half a bowl, some will say one bowl. You don't know what that bowl's size is basically, just half a bowl, just one bowl, just these many spoons. But a child knows about its own body when compared to anybody else, even the parents. They know how much to take, they know when to stop. So when we start pressurizing them about the quantity, one more, one more, one more, one more, look here, look there, eat this, it becomes a lot of pressure that makes it very unpleasant and uncomfortable for them. It starts backfiring. And then they start getting away from meals. And the moment they see the mother with a plate of food, they start running, they start moving away, they start, walking away. So this is why pressure during meal times is not encouraged. So quantity, when you fix something inside your mind, it automatically, naturally becomes a pressure for the child. Pressure for you, pressure for the child as well. So just take it off. Focus on the quality time that you spend with the child, the quality of food that you're offering, quality of nutrition that you're offering, the varieties that you're offering, how you're eating along with the child, how you're, inculcating certain mindful eating practices by sitting in one place and eating. Then, you will notice that automatically quantity also improves. So when there is pressure, then there is pressure over the quantity that has to be consumed. It backfires and makes it worse. Quality, quantity, everything goes for it. So use this as a golden opportunity and focus a lot on the quality during the first few months. You will notice that automatically the quantity will improve. Just leave it to the child. Okay. Now, to ensure that the feeds aren't getting displaced or replaced, what has to be done is that you need to take it forward on a very gradual basis. So how do you do that? So you start with just one meal a day after the baby is getting ready for solids. So babies get ready for solids somewhere around 6 months of age. So when they show the required readiness, about which we'll discuss in the next slide. So when they show all those required readiness, you'll start with solids, but you'll start with just one meal a day. Rest of the day, you can continue to feed them on demand. It's not like just because they've turned 6 months, just because they've shown all the readiness, doesn't mean they have to be consuming solids throughout the day. That is again a replacement. We don't want solids to be the replacement. We want it to be complement. So you feed them on demand as usual and you add one meal during the day. Okay, so that can be the morning or mid-morning preferably, so that in case of any reactions due to allergies, you'll be able to reach out to your pediatrician very easily. Okay, so what you do is you start with one meal a day, rest of the day you continue to feed on demand. Like this, continue for another couple of weeks or 3 weeks. And then you will make it twice a day. So twice a day you will offer solids, rest of the day you will continue to feed on demand. And then you will make it thrice a day. 3 times you will offer solids, rest of the day you will continue to feed the baby on demand. So by the time, every 2 to 3 weeks, you'll increase the number of days. You start with one, after 2-3 weeks, you'll make it 2, and after another 2-3 weeks, you'll make it 3, and again, after another 2 weeks, you'll make it 3 meals plus one snack you can add in between. Like between breakfast and lunch, you can add one snack. And then again, after a couple of weeks, somewhere around 9 months, 9.5 months of age, you will notice that the child has come to a stage where the child is taking breakfast, mid-morning snack, lunch, evening snack, and dinner. Okay, so you are taking it forward on a very gradual basis so that the feeds also doesn't get displaced or replaced. Solids is also getting gradually improved in terms of the quantity that they consume throughout the day, and also the number of meals that they're taking throughout the day. Everything gradually improves and make it stress free for the day. Okay, so now when do you offer food? So, like I mentioned earlier, you might get suggestions that you're often feeding the baby. Just because you're feeding the baby is why the baby is not eating. So, you should drop the feeds and get the baby very hungry. So, sometimes, most of the times, I would say, bringing a hungry baby to the table doesn't work. Not only because they're not used to solids, it's also because they become more cranky due to the hunger. Okay, so we don't want them to be too cranky, and also we don't want them to be too full as well. That is also true only. So how do we balance it? So you ensure that you feed as usual on demand. So any child who's gonna wake up is gonna ask for a feed, right? So feed them. So after feeding, leave a gap. So if it's breastfeeding, it's enough if you leave a gap of 35 to 40 minutes. Okay, and then after that you will offer solid. So this break of 35 to 40 minutes will ensure that the child is not too full, and at the same time, they'll not be too hungry as well. Too hungry, if they are too hungry, they'll become more cranky. If they're too full, they might not be interested to eat. So we don't want these two to happen. So we want them to be neutral. And for that, leave a gap of 35 to 40 minutes. So that will be really helpful. Okay. And on the other hand, if it's formula feeding, you leave a gap of 45 minutes to 1 hour, and then you will offer solid. Okay. So slowly, you'll reach a stage where the child itself is dropping feeds on its own. Okay, so you as a parent ensure that you don't drop any feeds. The child is more into solids, able to correlate, the hunger with food and all of that. And they are dropping feeds on their own. They are preferring more of solids. That is also perfectly fine after a certain stage. You don't have to force them to feed at any point of stage. But you just ensure that when the child is demanding, you feed as a parent. Do not drop any feeds with an intention to make the child eat more. That is not required. That is not recommended as well. Okay. And the next thing that we need to keep in mind is that the child should be in an upright position, no matter what consistency of feeding. Some people are like, I'm only giving purees, I'm only giving semi-solid foods. It's okay if I keep the child in a rocker or a bouncer or on my lap lying down. No, not at all. It's not recommended. It's very important to keep the child upright, no matter what consistency you're giving. Okay, it not only is going to reduce the risk of choking, but also it ensures that the child is able to gag, the child is able to vomit it out, the child is able to spit it out, the child is able to push it away, stop eating when they want to. So they'll be able to express themselves easily when they are in an upright position when compared to reclined position or lying down position. Okay, so lying down position or reclined position is not recommended at all. Child should always be kept in an upright position. Okay, and the next one is about division of responsibilities. So you will divide your responsibilities between you and your child. Your responsibility will be to decide what, when, and where the child eats. And the child's responsibility will be to decide whether to eat or not and how much to eat. I know this sounds very easy, but so difficult to follow. I totally agree. But don't worry, okay? Don't worry at all. Just, look at the bigger picture. We want our child to eat comfortably during meal times without showing any distress for a longer period of time. And for that, if you're following this rule, if you're ensuring that you're not poking your nose into your child's responsibilities, you will see great, great results later. Okay? So now when it comes to your responsibilities, we have already discussed about what to offer. We'll offer food from the family pot, just a modified version according to the child age appropriately. And then when to offer, we have just discussed. You will feed, leave some gap, and then you will offer solids. And then comes where. Okay. So either on your lap or a high chair or a booster seat, whichever that is going to work for you. But let me give you a personal suggestion. On your lap or on the floor is something that is really good. Okay. But unfortunately, the mobility increases around 8.5, 9 months of age. Children start crawling, they start, cruising, they start walking at a certain age. So when all of these milestones that they achieve, when their mobility increases, you will notice, that they can easily get away from you if they're sitting on the floor or on your lap. So it's very easy for them to get away and start roaming around. And of course, the peer pressure to follow and chase the child and make the child eat so that you are the best mother in the world is so, so real. You can't, keep talking to your child and setting boundaries like, you have to come here and eat food. Food belongs to this place, only one single place. Food cannot follow. You can't do all of this because people will be like, oh, gee, look at her. Such a irresponsible mother she is, heartless mother she is. Is she having any care for the child? She's just sitting in one single place and expecting the child to come and eat. Is it even possible? As a responsible mother, as a mother who is affectionate and loving and caring towards the child, shouldn't she be walking and roaming around the child and chasing the child and make the child eat? So this pressure sometimes affects parents, though their intentions are different. And when this kind of a pressure affects the parent might start reflecting it to the child. And the child will also understand, oh, wherever I go, food will follow. And that will become a habit. So it's not only an unmindful eating practice, it is also risky having food in mouth and roaming here and there around, running here and there around, that also increases the risk of choking, which nobody talks about. So it is very important for the child to learn that it is mindful and safer to sit in one place and eat. And for that, I would highly recommend either a high chair or a booster seat. Earlier, it was more like they used to start with high chair. High chair is a separate product on its own with its own legs. Okay, so they used to start with a high chair, and then once the child becomes a toddler and they would like to take part of the meal times along with all the family members in the dining table, the introduction of this product called as booster seat came up. So booster seat is a small seat that can be, kept as an extension over the regular dining chair that you have. It can be fixed over the regular dining chair that you have. And, babies can also eat food from the dining table from which the parents are eating. So that is how booster seat came into existence. But later on, 3-in-1, 4-in-1, high chair come booster seat. So many such products have come up in the market. So booster, if you're using a booster seat from the very beginning, also it's okay, well and good, not an issue. You can ensure that you keep a separate footrest because most of the booster seats doesn't come with a footrest. Either you can keep the booster seat on the floor and you can eat along with the baby if you're a family that eats on the floor by sitting on the floor. So either that can be done, or if you're fixing the booster seat on the chair, just ensure that you're keeping a separate footrest. So don't take it lightly and ignore this footrest part because imagine yourself sitting in a high chair where your legs are dangling down and you're not able to rest your foot at all. You'll become very restless. You'll not be able to concentrate on what you do. So it is important for the child to be able to rest their foot. Okay. So for that, you can keep a separate footrest in front of them. A small stool or anything that works for you is perfectly fine in case you're using booster seat. Or if you're starting with the high chair initially, that also is perfectly fine. Whichever that works for you is okay. Just ensure that the size is age appropriate because, I recently came across a video from one of my previous participants who said that the child is not at all interested in eating. Okay. So when I took a look at the videos, I was able to notice that the baby was sitting in the chair like this. Okay. The tray was here. The child was completely slouched to the side, and the legs were, stretched out and dangling. And how can we expect this child to eat well? How can we expect progression with this child? The child is not even able to reach to the tray. The chair is that big. And also the chair is too big for the baby so that the baby is constantly slouching towards the side. There is no stability. And there is footrest in the high chair, but it is not reachable for the child. And then only, I realized, okay, that these days there are brands which are coming up with this marketing gimmicks to increase the price of the high chair by mentioning that it is durable for 6 years, 7 years, it can be used for 6 years, 7 years. Now imagine if you can put a 6-year-old inside a chair, okay, inside a particular chair. Imagine how big it has to be. And now imagine putting a 6-month-old inside a chair which can accommodate a 6-year-old. It is definitely going to be packed. The child cannot stay comfortable in the chair. So ensure that you're buying a small and age appropriate one, which is more than enough. The child is not going to sit in the same chair for 6 long years, damn sure. By the end of 2 years, 2.5 years, they'll be like, I want to sit where mama is sitting, I want to sit where papa is sitting. That's how they are. They want to do what you're trying to do. They cannot keep sitting in one single chair for those many number of years. So don't fall for such gimmicks and buy a huge chair and make it very uncomfortable for the baby. Just buy a small age appropriate one, that's more than enough. And in case you've already fallen for the strap and you've got a chair that is so huge for your child, ensure that you're using towels, cushions, rolled towels and all of that. And also help the baby rest their foot. Maybe footrests are not reachable, you can use a cardboard box or something like that, which will help the baby reach. You can place a cardboard box over the footrest so that the child can at least rest their foot on the cardboard box. So something or the other DIY ideas you can make and make the baby feel comfortable and ensure the posture is right. Child should be able to sit upright without slouching. The child should be able to reach out to the tray. So the child is looking down is where the food is supposed to be. Child should be able to look down and reach out to the food rather than searching for the food on the first floor. Okay, so the food has to be reachable, footrest should be accessible, and the chair should be age appropriate for the child. All right, so this is something that you need to do. And then comes division we spoke. Always following responsive feeding. So responsive feeding, as in you will wait for the baby's body to respond to what you're trying to do to the baby. So if it is traditional method, just bring the food near the baby, let the child come forward and take it from you. Let the child come forward and take it from you. That is how it has to work, right? So it shouldn't be, like nudging and shoveling the food inside the baby's mouth. That's not how it was. And then cleaning it and again putting it back. So all these are done without intentions to make the baby feel pathetic. But unfortunately, it does make the baby feel pathetic and uncomfortable, unpleasant and all of that. So they start, getting away from you guys. So wait for their body to respond. So bring the first bite of food, keep it near the baby, let the child come forward and take it from you. Once they've taken it from you, now show all the actions and do modeling part and all of that. Once they're done with that, of course, with tradition also, it's important to show them how to chew. Okay, so chewing is basically triggered by reflexes, natural spontaneous responses from the body. But still, you sitting in front of them and modeling how to chew, that can also have a great impact. So start modeling with traditional as well. So once you're done with modeling, once the child is done having the first bite, now bring the second bite, wait for the baby to come forward and take it from you. So this is what responsive feeding is all. Okay, and then comes self-feeding method where you will just be a facilitator. You will sit in front of the baby and you'll show them how to eat. And sometimes what I've seen is that, out of curiosity, parents pick the piece of finger food, they put it inside the child's hand, they forcefully close the child's hand using the food, and they guide the child's hand towards the child's own mouth. This is not how it has to happen. This will also make it unpleasant. So instead, you do it by yourself. Don't force the child to touch and squish and play and, take the food to their mouth. They will do it on their own. So you just sit in front of them and model how to eat. Apart from all of this, whatever method you're following, take the child for grocery shopping. Let the child take a look at how fruits, veggies are, how meat is being kept. Let them take a look at all of this and also involve them while preparing food. That is definitely going to have a positive impact as well. Okay? So be it any method, following all these basic common rules and regulations will help you have a good association with food for a longer period of time. All right. So now let's discuss if the child is ready for solids. So a child gets ready for solids somewhere around 6 months of age. Okay? Somewhere around 6 months is when a child starts showing readiness for solids, which is basically somewhere around 180 days. Okay? 180 days, it's not a magical mark or something. 180 days, it's just a spectrum. It's a spectrum around which the child generally gets ready for solids. Okay, so you need to start looking out for readiness when the child is getting closer to this particular spectrum, which is around 180 days of age. 170, 175 days is also perfectly fine. It's not a magical mark exactly, and also doesn't mean it should not cross 180. 180 is the deadline. No, it can still cross 180 if the child can take another week or two as well. Not an issue at all. So we should look out for certain readinesses. So what are all those readinesses? One, the child should have good head and neck control and good upper body stability. Okay, so a lot of people ask this question. Okay, so my child is not sitting independently yet. So is it okay for me to make the child sit? Will it not harm their spinal cord? That's one of the most common questions that I get. So from the time of birth until around a certain age, we generally carry the child like this, right? In a lying down position is how we carry. Now, how long are you going to do this? And when will you start making the child sit on your lap like this? Okay, that's my question. So, somewhere around 9 or 10 months of age is when independent sitting is supposed to happen. So, that's the range where this milestone has to be achieved by children. Now, do we carry the child only in lying down position until 9, 10 months of age? We don't. We keep them on our laps when they develop that upper body stability and head and neck control, which is somewhere around 5.5 months of age, right? So you're just going to make them sit with the minimal support that you provide. You're not going to forcefully make them sit independently. Okay. So even if you're keeping them on your lap, okay, your body is supporting the child's back, right? And you're holding the child using your hands, and the child is able to sit with this minimal support. So if you're doing it on your lap, it's going to work like this. Or if you're going to keep the child on the high chair or the booster seat directly, there'll be harness points. It is important to notice this as well while buying a high chair or a booster seat. There should be at least 3-point harness, or if there is 5-point harness, well and good, a good thing to happen. So at least 3-point or 5-point harness should be present, which will hold them well. And also the back side of the chair is going to support the baby's back. Child can hold on to the tray. The child can rest their foot. So with all of this support, if they're able to sit without slouching or falling forward, that indicates readiness. So even with all of this support, even while sitting on your lap, you're providing the lower body support, your back is supporting the baby's back, but still the child is slouching or falling forward. It indicates that the child is not ready. We need to wait for a few more days. Tummy time, please start offering as early as possible. It's going to be very, very, very helpful in terms of, helping with the neck strength, core strength. It's going to be very, very beneficial. So start offering tummy time. Okay. Yes. So if the child is having good head and neck control, good upper body stability, the child will be able to sit without slouching or falling forward, either on your lap or on a high chair or a booster seat. Okay. So if they're able to do that, they are ready. Okay. So, or a tripod position, if they're able to hold good for 15-20 seconds, that also is a good sign of readiness. Okay. So, they're able to hold good in this tripod position for 15 to 20 seconds. That also is good. So, the child who is sitting on the screen that I'm sharing, right? So, that's tripod position. On a floor mat or on the cot, if the child is able to sit by touching the floor using its own hands for 15 to 20 seconds, they'll definitely lean forward in this position. That's not an issue. But 15-20 seconds, if they're able to hold good, that's because of the strength that they're having, like head and neck control and upper body stability that they're having, because of which they're able to sit by touching the floor on its or by touching the floor using their own hands, they'll be able to sit for a few seconds. So that also indicates readiness, but you don't have to mandatorily try with just tripod hold. You can keep the child on your lap and check, or you can keep the child directly on a high chair or a booster seat and you can check as well. Okay. So that's one of the major readinesses that you'll have to look out for, apart from the age, which is, the spectrum around 180 days. And interest to eat, they're trying to come near your plate, trying to grab foods that you're eating. That also indicates, readiness. And apart from that, good hand to mouth coordination, that also indicates readiness. So around that age is when you will start looking out for these kind of readiness factors. All right. And now there is another factor which was being recommended earlier, but these days, people are not suggesting that particular factor as a readiness one due to, the existence of this method called as baby-led. Let's discuss both. Okay. So earlier, when the child, when traditional method was the only thing that was being practiced, there was this concept called as waiting until a particular reflex disappears. So reflex is basically a spontaneous reaction that your body gives for any action that is being done to the body. Okay, so when something is about to happen to the body immediately, responds to it in a certain way. Reaction, a spontaneous reaction without much of thought process. Immediately it happens. That's basically a reflex. So there are so many such protective, preventive reflexes that are present in the body, and one such reflex is the tongue thrust reflex. Okay, so when tongue thrust reflex is present, okay, in the child, they usually tend to push things away using their tongue. So, as the name itself describes, they usually thrust it using their tongue outside. So, when a solid object comes near the mouth, they do, they push it away. So, they would have done this when you give the medicine drops and all of that. They'll be like, they'll push it away. So, instead of accepting, they generally push it away. So, this reflex usually disappears around 6 months as well. So that is why earlier, when only tradition was into practice, people were suggesting that wait until the reflex disappears, because when this reflex is present, you can't, feed the child traditionally. So when you bring in the food and the child is not accepting, rather the child is pushing things away, and you might get tempted to forcefully put the food inside the child's mouth, which is more like violating their boundaries and making them feel more uncomfortable and all of that. So it is better you wait until the reflex disappears, is what earlier it was being suggested. Once baby-led weaning came into practice, the feeding therapists and the experts started suggesting that this might only help the child, navigate the food better inside their mouth. And also, since it's the preventive reflex, there is nothing that we need to worry about, especially considering the fact that the child is self-feeding. Child's brain gets ample time to first decide the fact that they're going to go touch the food, bring it to the mouth, and start eating and all of that. So even though this reflex is present, it is not going to be a hindrance because they are doing things on your own. Nobody is forcefully putting anything inside their mouth. It's going to be a finger food that they're going to handle. So they are doing it by themselves, and it is only going to help them navigate better, which also makes a lot of sense. Now, if you think about the previous old statement about waiting until the reflex disappears before you start traditionally, that also makes a lot of sense. So, since there is no concrete evidence about this particular readiness factor, what I would suggest is that in case you're planning to start with traditional, wait until this reflex disappears. It usually disappears around 6 or 6.5 months of age. Okay, if your plan is to do traditional method, wait until the reflex disappears. Or if your plan itself is to start self-feeding from the very beginning, you don't even have to think about this reflex. Even if it is present, you can go ahead and start. So whether you're going to look out for tongue thrust as the readiness factor or not is going to depend on what method you're planning to follow for your child in the beginning. Okay, so this is it about the readiness factors. So I hope whatever I've discussed until now has been clear. So any doubts, any questions, please feel free to reach out to me during the 3-day WhatsApp support. Make a note of whatever question that pops up inside your mind while you're watching the session. All right. So now, when do you approach a pediatric feeding therapist? Okay. So a pediatric feeding therapist is a well-qualified person who handles mealtime issues in children and who also is qualified enough to identify the issues that the child is going through, because of which the child is not able to get into, uh, good connection with food. Okay. So now, when parents start with solids, after listening to all the conversations that we have during the session, they ask me like, should I not expect anything at all from my baby? Is that how it should, be taken forward? No, it's not like that. I always recommend my participants to set some realistic goals, realistic expectations. So when parents come back saying things like my child is not at all eating, especially within 2-3 days, it's majorly because of the unrealistic expectation that is being set on the child. So it shouldn't be like that as well, but at the same time doesn't mean you should never expect anything at all. As long as it takes, let it take. You should keep trying what you're trying. No, that also doesn't work like that. So you need to fix a realistic goal Okay, and start monitoring how things go ahead, and reach out to a professional if you feel like something is not going right. Okay, so now before we discuss about how to set realistic expectations, I want you to understand certain things for which I'm going to show you an example. This is basically a soup that's made out of snake. Okay, so this is a snake. So snake soup is basically a staple food in a lot of regions where people are consuming this on a very regular basis, and they are leading a very healthy life. And also, it's protein rich, it seems, nutritious and delicious. Okay, people are eating it on a regular basis. So, would you like to try this? Think about it. If no is your answer, and if you feel disgusted about just looking at this particular dish, I feel disgusted. I feel like vomiting. I feel horrible just by thinking about eating it. I don't want to eat it. Do you think it is all valid? How is it even valid? There are people who eat it. It is nutritious. It is very delicious. Even without trying, how can you reject it by saying that you don't like it, you want to eat it? Sounds absurd, right? So what? So what? There are people who are eating it. So what if it is nutritious? So what if it is delicious? I don't want to try it. It's not something that I'm used to. It feels very new to me. I feel disgusted about it. I feel unpleasant and uncomfortable about it. It's not appealing for me. So it is okay for me to feel that way. That's what is your point, right? So then why do we say those things to children? Oh, it is just dal rice, it is just carrot, it is just being so delicious, so nutritious. I've tried hard to prepare it for you, even without taking a single bite. Why are you rejecting? This is being told to toddlers and also to babies who are just starting on solids. Oh, my baby is not even trying. Only if the baby tries, the baby will be able to eat more. And then at least, having an intention of, okay, let me somehow put this first bite forcefully inside the child's mouth so that when the child tastes, the child will eat. And then they start forcing the first bite. So this happens in a lot of households. Now, imagine about your child, okay? Just put yourself in your baby's shoes. From the time of birth until 6 months, of course, from the time they are in your womb itself, through amniotic fluid, through breast milk, when they're already born, through breast milk, they get the taste of what you consume. But they haven't seen food in real. They haven't touched food in real. They haven't tasted it in real. It's all new for them. So neophobia is very much, existing. It is very much okay to happen. So it's not abnormal for the child to dislike a very usual variety that we all consume as a family, at least for the first few days. Did you know that there are evidences which says that it might take around 25 to 30 number of exposures for the child to start but liking a particular variety? Within just one single attempt, oh, it's just carrot, it's just potatoes, it's just sweet potatoes. Why is the child not even liking it even without trying? They feel disgusted about it. They feel like, it's not okay for me to touch it. I don't feel comfortable. It's okay for them to feel that way, just like how you felt the moment you take a look at the, steak soup. So it is okay for them to feel that way for the first few days. Some children might start crying the moment they see the food for the first few days. And then they'll get comfortable with, looking at you, watching you eat that particular food in front of them. And then, they'll get comfortable with the fact that, this is something that is normally eaten by, people around us. They are doing good, well and good. So let me also give it a try by touching it. So touching might give them some discomfort. They'll throw it away immediately. Sometimes, another 2-3 days, they'll get comfortable with touching. And then maybe another 2-3 days, they'll try and attempt and put it in their mouth. So they'll spit it away immediately. They don't like the taste. So that will take another 2-3 days. So slowly and steadily only things are going to improve. So expecting the child to become a pro level eater within the first week of starting solids is not realistic at all. So how do I set that realistic expectations? Do not expect too much from the child during the first few days. It is like I mentioned, it is okay if the child to cry, push the food away, spit it, not willing to touch. All of these are normal during the initial days. But within 3-4 weeks, they should have gotten comfortable with all of this. Within 2-3 weeks of starting solids, you should be able to notice the child is comfortable with the food being in front of them. They're comfortable touching it, they're comfortable exploring it, or they're comfortable, the food, they're comfortable with the fact that the food is touching them inside their mouth. In case you're traditionally feeding, that shouldn't give them that discomfort. Okay. And chewing and swallowing shouldn't be a problem. So these are all the stuffs that you'll have to notice within the first 2 to 3 weeks. So this is the progression that you can expect. So this is what I mentioned when I mentioned about realistic expectations. Okay. So yes, within 2 3 weeks of starting solids, or 3 or 4 weeks of starting solids, the child should have gotten comfortable with all of these aspects. If it's been 3 weeks, if it's been 4 weeks, the child has not even tried taking 2 3 bites until now. Child is constantly crying, feels uncomfortable looking at the food, touching the food, playing with the food, or the food touching inside their mouth, or chewing or swallowing. If either of these are causing some sort of a distress in your child, and you're able to notice that, please reach out to a feeding therapist. So, like we mentioned earlier, it is, of course, important to create the right environment and ensure that there is no pressure during meal times, focus on the quality, not on the quantity. All of that is there. But even after doing all of this, even after providing all these facilities, child can still feel completely uncomfortable with food itself for a very longer period of time due to underlying reasons. So there is a difference. There is a thin line. So for every child, it is normal to feel uncomfortable about food during the first few days. But within 2 3 weeks of starting solids, it should change. They should get comfortable. If it has not happened, if it's been 3 weeks, if it's been 4 weeks, it's not happened, you can't keep waiting for a longer period of time. So we need to figure out if the child is having any sensory processing issues, and if there are any sensory aversions, oral aversion, if there is any oral restriction, dysfunction, oral motor skills development issues. You don't know what the child is going through. So you'll only know that somehow or other my child is feeling distressed during meal times. The moment you notice that, reach out to feeding therapist. The one that I personally know is Tara Shenoy. She's from Coimbatore. She does online consultations as well. So she'll ask you for your mealtime videos and she'll analyze and give you suggestions accordingly. So she's an pediatric occupational therapist and also a pediatric feeding therapist, well qualified professional with 12 13 years of experience. That is the reason why I recommend her personally. There are a lot of quacks these days on social media. People who are not qualified enough to do sessions on picky eating, consultations, and all, they start doing it just because they have reversed it for their own child. Doesn't make them an expert. So, according to what I can do with my scope of practice, is what I am doing right now, introducing solids. That is what I can speak about. So I'm not supposed to do sessions on picky eating. I'm not supposed to do consultations on picky eating because whatever qualifications that I have doesn't allow me to do these kind of assessments for a child who's struggling with meal times. That's why I'm suggesting them to another profession. So you shouldn't, generally a professional shouldn't feel, that they are the epitome and they can do everything. Unfortunately, today there are so many who are doing that without a pinch of guilt. So please, please, please don't reach out to the wrong person. Please reach out to the right person. So if you're able to find out any other feeding therapist who is a qualified person, you can go to them also. Okay, but please don't fall in trap uh, with people who are not qualified. So I have been introducing solid session for the past 4.5 years now. Not even a single consultation or session I have done on picky eating because it's not coming under my scope of practice. I don't know. Okay. So unfortunately, not everybody does that. People start doing sessions. So if you feel like, you would like to reach out to the right profession, you need to do your research, thorough research, and then you'll have to reach out. So if you ask me for a suggestion, then Tara is my suggestion. Okay? Yes. Now, before we proceed, I would like to take a quick break for 5 minutes. Okay? And then I'll be back. So if you're watching the session and would like to continue watching the session without a break, just skip the next 5 minutes. I'll continue talking. Okay? So, or if you would like to take a break for 5 minutes, you can, take a break and then come back so that I'll continue talking. So I'll be back after 5 minutes of break. Okay? So yes, I'm back. Let's continue with the topics. Okay, so here is a list of food that can be avoided during the first year of life. Okay, in general. So in no particular order, let's discuss about honey first. Okay, so honey, if given before 1 year of age, can potentially lead to this condition called as infant botulism. Okay, so infant botulism is a very, very rare yet life-threatening condition that can result anywhere from muscle weakness, shortness of breath, and sometimes it has even taken away the life of some children. Okay, so this is happening because if the honey that we are offering is contaminated with this bacteria called as Clostridium botulinum, it can then lead to this condition called as infant botulism. So now people generally have this question: just a drop of honey, does it really matter? Or shall I use honey while cooking or while giving hot water? Maybe can I mix honey so that the heat will kill the bacteria? Can I get this from this particular farm which is giving me fresh and super safe? So it is not possible for you to eliminate the risk by doing any of these factors. So even after you heat it, or even if you get it from the most safest, brand or farm or whatsoever, there is a possibility for the spores to be still present in honey. Spores of this bacteria can still be present in the honey unless or until you take it to the lab and get it checked. You don't know whether the bacteria is present or not. So of course it is super rare. It's not like you give a drop of honey to any baby and the baby will get affected with infant botulism and it takes away the life. It's not like that. Super rare. But though it is rare, since it is your child, you need to be careful about it, right? So at the cost of the life of the child, giving honey, I don't think it is important, right? So honey can be completely avoided until 1 year of age. And after 1 year, if you would like to, you can offer, okay? Or since it is something that is too sweet, then maybe you can delay it also a little bit extra, like 15, 16 months or 17, 18 months, you can introduce if you would like to. But until 12 months, it's a strict no, post which you can introduce it at any point of time you're comfortable. But until 12 months, it's a huge, huge, strict no. All right. So yes, now let's talk about chili. So when it is chili, it's just green and red chili during the initial days due to its harshness. It's not that chili is harmful for the child. Okay, so it's kind of harsh and will make the child feel very unpleasant while trying the food by itself. So whenever they see that food, they might feel like, oh my God, it's going to be very harsh on me. So just to avoid that kind of a feeling, you can avoid green and red chili for the first few months. Okay, but don't give bland foods for your child. Don't ever offer bland foods for your child, because giving bland foods for a very longer period of time can have its own effects. Like the child might start rejecting spices completely even when the child is 1.5 2 years old and all of that. So it is important for you to introduce spices. I have created a list of condiments that can be offered from the very beginning. Simple stuff that you have in your kitchen only, but still, I've just curated the list so that you can have it handy and use different spices for different recipes that you're following. Okay. So once the child gets used to these set of condiments, the usual regular condiments like turmeric powder, dhania powder, jeera powder, the fenugreek powder, and then fennel seeds powder, so many such varieties are there. No? You start giving all of this and make the child get used to all of this. And once it is all comfortable for the child, you can start adding green and red chili as well. Okay. So when you add green and red chili, ensure that you take it forward on a gradual basis. That also is very important. You start with just, the simplest form, like maybe if you're making khichdi or upma, ensure that you're adding one whole green chili or one whole red chili and see how the child is responding to it. If the child is comfortable, maybe the next time, next 1 or 2 times, you can try the same technique. And once the child is completely comfortable with that, maybe you can try to break the red chili and add one time, or you can make a split, you can make a slit on the green chili and add it. So that will be the second stage. And then will come a stage where you can start, chopping chilies and adding it to the food that you're preparing, blending chilies for chutneys. So stage by stage, you can take it forward rather than making it all of a sudden. Okay, so stage by stage, stage according to the child's tolerance, you can increase it. Okay, so and by the time the child is around 1.5 years of age, you will notice that the child is almost into what the family exactly eats without any sort of modifications. Okay, so yes, that's it about chili. Now comes cow's milk. So when you talk about cow's milk is basically, not recommended for children who are below 1 year of age. Not just cow's milk, any animal milk for that matter. Any animal milk for that matter, it is not recommended at all. Okay. So the reason is because, see, of course, there are different mammals, who feed their own milk, their offsprings. Like there is cow, there is goat, there is raccoon, there is monkey, there is donkey, human beings are there. So of course we all do, but the composition of our milk, okay, it is going to vary depending on a lot of factors, including characteristics, behavior, the skeleton size, how long they're going to be nursed. So many such factors, the growth and development, nutrition factor. So, what are all the specific set of nutrients that are required for, their specific growth and development? Everything is tailor made for its own offspring. So, cow is going to prepare milk in such a way that is going to nourish the calf, not human children, basically. Okay. So when it comes to children who are between 0 to 12 months of age, like we discussed earlier, they need a specific, set of nutrients to grow and develop during the first year of life, which is solely available only in breast milk or formula milk until 6 months. And even after 6 months, it is going to be majorly available in either breast milk or formula milk. So cow's milk is nutritionally inappropriate for children who are below 1 year of age. One thing is that cow's milk doesn't have the nutrients that children require to thrive and develop during the first year of age. And also certain nutrients that are present in cow's milk can be very harsh on the child's gut, kidneys, and make it too worse for them by creating issues right from severe dehydration, iron deficiency anemia, rejection of solids, rejection of breast milk or formula milk feeds, fussiness, and then, sometimes intestinal bleeding has happened in some children. So, it is better we avoid a product that can cause so much of damage to the child if given below 1 year of age. Not just cow's milk, any animal milk for that matter. You might think, see, formula is anyway made out of cow's milk, but still it is processed in such a way that, it doesn't exactly is similar to what cow's milk is. So it's made to mimic breast milk. So that will be a better choice when compared to cow's milk when the child is below 1 year of age if breastfeeding is not going to happen. So post 1 year, the child can take cow's milk in moderation if the parent and the child is willing to take it. So until 1 year, cow's milk is a strict milk. So just simply compare a calf's skeleton size and a human child's skeleton size, how different it is. And also think about when does the calf starts to walk. When does the calf starts to walk? Within the first day of birth, right? So when do you think the human child starts walking? So the amount of calcium, the amount of protein that it has, it's all too much for a child who is below 1 year of age. So in moderation, as in 200 to 250 ml after 1 year of age is okay to be given. It is optional to be given if the parent and the child is willing. Even then, it is not like it's mandatory. It has to be given and all of it. Okay. So just ensure that you give it after 1 year and not below 1 year. Even after 1 year, it's a personal choice. Alright. Having said that, cow's milk products, once it's fermented, it is going to be safe for most of the children except for those who have cow's milk protein allergy or lactose intolerance. So basically curd and then buttermilk, butter, ghee, paneer, these stuffs are considered completely fine for children to consume from the time they are starting with solids. Okay, it's because once you ferment it, the lactose, protein and all gets broken down and makes it easy for the body to handle and tolerate it. When compared to milk as a drink. So milk as a drink is not recommended until 1 year. But milk products which are, coming after the process of fermentation is completely okay. So even milk and milk products are not recommended for children who are suffering with cow's milk protein allergy or lactose intolerance. So in that case, your doctor would have suggested you not to do it until 1 year, so you can follow that advice. So if there is no such issue for the child can definitely take milk products from the time child is ready for solids. So milk as a drink is a big no until 1 year. Okay. Oh, now salt. So when you talk about salt, until last year the suggestion was different. Okay, most of the health organizations, they were recommending not to offer salt at all for a baby who is below 1 year of age. Okay, let me tell you why. So salt is nothing but sodium chloride, right? So sodium is basically a mineral that you require on a daily basis, and that applies for children as well. But children get enough sodium, that is, the required amount of sodium is met with the amount of breast milk or formula milk they consume on a daily basis. So on a daily basis, they'll be consuming, breast milk or formula milk, right? From that itself, they're getting around 150 mg of sodium per day. So apart from what they get with breast milk or formula milk, they also get to eat solid foods. Foods also naturally come along with sodium. Not everything, but a lot of food varieties. For example, carrot has sodium, curd has sodium, spinach has sodium. So if you take these varieties, there will be 50 mg of sodium, 60, 70 mg of sodium. So you will be able to notice that the child is consuming sodium in the form of solid food as such as well. So if you come across WHO's posts often, you will notice that they are asking you to avoid, like us adults, right? So if you're an adult, please avoid consuming too much of sodium, keep it minimal so that you can stay away from non-communicable diseases like, myocardial infarction, heart attacks, and then, blood pressure issues, and then stroke and all of that. The reason that they are asking you not to take excessive sodium is because if you're consuming more sodium than what your body can handle and deal with on a regular basis, there is a possibility for fluid retention in the body, which can lead to these kind of conditions like blood pressure issues and then heart related issues and all of that. This is why they ask even adults to do that. So when it comes to children, what they said was earlier, whatever they're getting from breast milk or formula milk itself is enough in terms of the sodium requirement. They also get it in terms of, solid consumption. So adding excessive salt is not something that is required. It might result in overload of sodium in the child's body. So you can start adding salt after 1 year is what was being suggested earlier. But recently a few studies came up which revealed that the negligible amount of salt that we add is not overconsumption for children who are between 6 and 12 months of age. So if you're making dal rice or if you're making some veggies or if you're making some upma or some khichdi or something like that, then you're adding a very minimal amount of salt to it. It is not going to be harmful for the baby. It is just that excessive sodium on a regular basis, like high sodium food variety, you're adding too much of salt yourself, or you're buying these packed foods which is packed with a lot of sugar and salt. So these kind of stuffs on a regular basis is what is going to increase such problems for the child. And it's not the usual regular food that you cook at house, which has negligible amount of salt in it. This creates unnecessary stress in parents. So if the parents are willing to add minimal amount of salt to their child's diet and they are sure about adding only minimal amount, then that's not going to be a cause of concern. So whenever possible, reduce the volume of sodium that you are adding to the child's diet. But you don't have to be too stringent about not bringing salt at all to the child's diet, is what these recent studies have revealed. So now the ball is in your court. Whether you're going to wait for a few more months to start with salt as a part of the child's diet, or you're starting with negligible amounts from the very beginning, is going to be your call, your choice. Okay, so adding small amount is also not wrong, or waiting for a few more days to start salt also is not wrong. Okay, so it is totally up to you, up to your comfort. The only thing that you need to ensure is as much as possible, whenever possible, ensure that, you're not adding too much of salt. Just add very, very minimal if you're willing to do it. or wait for a few days and then start adding. Whichever you're comfortable, it's perfectly fine. Just ensure the child is not taking too much of salt, too much of sodium on a regular basis. That alone you need to take. Otherwise, it's perfectly your call. Completely your call. Perfectly your choice. All right. And yes, if you ask questions like how can children eat without salt, a lot of children, like for the past 4 years, I've seen a lot of families, right? I have seen babies eat without salt, so it is very much possible because we adults, we, have already tasted salt. We know how much it enhances the taste of the food. But we are, we are not willing to take foods without salt because we know the value of salt, how much it enhances the food. But children, they don't know. They haven't tasted salt yet. So they can be very comfortable with even food that doesn't come with salt. But if you're adding salt, of course, you will see the difference. Like it, of course, enhances the taste. And at the end of the day, our children, they are also human beings. They're definitely going to appreciate it. So it is completely your call. Negligible amount or no salt for a few days, it's your call totally. But ensure that the child is not taking too much of salt. That's it. Okay. Otherwise, small amounts, perfectly fine. If you would like to take a look at the research papers, I can share it with you, of course. Okay, so let me know when you get back to me with questions through the WhatsApp group or personal chat or whichever that you're comfortable. All right. Now comes sugar. So sugar, when you talk about it, not only white sugar, but cane sugar, palm candy, jaggery, etc., all these come under the very same category. Okay, as much as possible, at least the first 6 months of starting college, between 6 to 12 months of age, try not to introduce any of these varieties. You might think, oh, jaggery comes with iron. No, this palm candy, cane sugar, and all, it's better than white sugar. No, why don't we add that? So it's the same to the body, I would say. Okay, the reason is because um, white sugar, of course, is termed as an empty calorie. So it's an empty calorie, which means it only comes with calories and not any nutrients at all. Okay. But when you talk about jaggery or palm sugar or cane sugar, whatsoever, there is a little bit of nutrients, minerals that are present here and there. But for you to get the benefits out of these minerals, you will have to consume larger quantities in a single serving, which is practically impossible. Okay. So 20 spoons, 25 spoons of jaggery in a single serving, the risk of consuming so much of calories in a single serving is going to outweigh the benefits that you get out of those minerals. Okay, so there is no point in consuming. Let's say if you're adding just 1 or 2 spoons, I'm adding. Let me get only the nutrients. No, you won't get those benefits of nutrients by just adding 1 or 2 teaspoons. So if you adding 1 or 2 teaspoons, white sugar, palm candy, cane sugar, jaggery, everything is the same for the body. It metabolizes and does the same thing what white sugar does inside the body. There is no big difference at all. Okay, so it's more like, people have this obsession recently I have seen, where, if it is the brownie that's made out of maida or white sugar, they're like, oh my God, I should never touch this. This is so unhealthy. And then, if it is something that's made out of jaggery, they'll consume 3 to 4 brownies. So this is where the problem, lies. So this is not how we need to consume. Whatever you consume in moderation. So now let's keep adults apart. When it comes to children, 6 to 12 months, ensure that you don't give any of these varieties and stick with fruits, dry fruits and stuff like that to make a dessert or something. I'm not saying the child should never take anything that is sweet at all. The child can, of course, take in something that is sweet, dessert, and all of that. But try to use fruits as such or dry fruits for the first year of life. And then after 1 year, occasionally it's birthday of the child, it's anniversary of the parents, it's some occasion. The entire family is indulging in some dessert. You don't have to be too strict about, oh my God, I will never let my child eat sugar, and you don't have to restrict the child too much because too much of restriction can also lead to binge eating later. So after 1 year, occasionally giving a small portion should be fine. So after 2 years, okay, ensure that you fix a timeline or boundary or a routine or whatever you call it. Like, weekly or 2 weeks once, once, I mean, 2 weeks once I'll have this particular dessert. So you should be the model. So you should not sit and eat junk and only junk in front of the child's eyes, and you cannot ask the child to be more mindful. So you need to be that role model for being mindful about eating, okay, with the child. So now, so 2 weeks once or 3 weeks once or however you would like to fix it, just fix it and offer small portion for the child also. So when you start doing it yourself on an occasional basis in minimal quantity and it becomes a routine for the child will also not binge eat later. They'll not crave it because of over restriction. And at the same time, since we are following a mindful practice of having just once in a while, it is also not going to be harmful for the child. The rest of the day, the rest of the week, and all the child is consuming a well balanced variety of diet. So occasional eating shouldn't cause any kind of a trouble. Okay, so this is what I wanted to convey about sugar, because early introduction of sugar, that is 6 months, 7 months, and all, if you're introducing, there is a possibility for flavor dominance, which might lead to picky eating later, and of course the risk of tooth decay, immunity suppression, all of this is there. So it is better you follow this pattern for a healthy and mindful practice. All right. And yes, now, any food that is runny in nature is considered a big no for a child who is below 1 year of age. Okay. The reason is because the more you dilute a particular food, the lesser it becomes in nutritional value. Okay. So it is quite common in a lot of households to suggest dal water, rice water, uh, runny rice puree, runny fruit purees. Something that is too runny is what a lot of people suggest when a child is starting off with solids. But the issue is that their tummy size is very small. It is as small as their closed fists. That is how much it can hold. So if you're giving something that is liquidy, since there is no requirement for anything to be done inside the mouth, they just have to simply gulp it down. It easily fills up the child's stomach. So you're giving something in a consistency which is capable of filling up the child's stomach quickly. And unfortunately, what you're offering is less in nutritional value. So now, because there is something that is liquidy which has filled up the child's tummy very quickly, they might tend to avoid 1 or 2 feeds because of that. So breast milk or formula milk here is getting displaced, replaced. So what happens? What happens? The nutritional displacement is what is happening over here. They are not getting the actual requirement of nutrients from breast milk or formula milk because their stomach is filled up with something else which is nutritionally insufficient for the child. So to avoid these stuffs, it is better you stick with something that is thick, okay, that doesn't fall off from the spoon in general. If you take it in the spoon, it should be thick such that it doesn't fall off from the spoon. So when it is thick, like imagine having a bowl of, dal water, okay, 2-3 bites of dal rice if the child is taking, that's more nutritious when compared to a bowl of dal water. So if it is thick, even minimal quantity is going to be beneficial. And also it doesn't, quickly fill up the child's stomach. That whatever they have taken, that is also nutritious. And they'll also take feeds as usual. So they get the benefits from feeds also. So this is what we need, especially during the first year of life. So avoid dal water, rice water, runny purees, runny porridges. Prefer something that is thicker in consistency. And also, on the other hand, fruit juices, the Indian Academy of Pediatrics is recommending not to offer fruit juices at all until 1 year of life, because the reason is because when you take away the fiber from the fruit, it's more like consuming too much of sugar only. There is no big difference at all. Okay, so fiber is what is going to ensure that there is no sugar rush in the body when fruits are consumed. Fruits comes with natural sugar as well, but it's not harmful because fruits also comes along with a lot of fiber. So if you take away the fiber and give only the juice, it's not going to be that beneficial. It can be addictive and can lead to tooth decay if given on a regular basis as well. So until the first year of life, just ensure that you don't give fruit juices at all. After 1 year, occasionally few sips shouldn't be a huge cause of concern. Okay. And on the other hand, any food that is runny nature, as in like soups and all, that is also included. So soups occasionally shouldn't be a trouble, but don't give soup as a meal every day or on a very frequent basis. Occasionally soups should be fine, especially meat soups are more nutritious. So meat soups shouldn't be a cause of concern if given on an occasional basis. And also you can prefer giving meat, vegetables as well, so that also can be even more beneficial. um, so yes, the next category is packed foods. So when you talk about packed foods, it's highly processed foods like Cerelac, Nestum, and stuffs like that, which comes with truck loads of sugar, which can be very addictive. And the artificial taste of it keeps the child hooked for a very longer period of time. The child might reject, the usual foods that you cook at house, and because of which you might have to go back to the departmental store and keep buying the food again and again. And that is the reason why these brands are still standing strong in the market today, even like a king, despite a lot of restrictions. I think a lot of you might be unaware of that. So, IMS Act was passed in the year 1992, which stated that these brands aren't supposed to do large scale of, marketing distribution of these infant food substitutes. It should be kept bare minimal, and also the advertisements got completely banned. No advertisements for Cerelac or Nestum. They should not be using a picture of a mother or a baby on their front label. They should be mentioning mother's milk is best for the child in their front label. There should be transparency in terms of mentioning what are all the ingredients that they're using. So many such rules were imposed. Even after all of this, even after all these years, these brands are surviving as because of the trump card that they are using, which is sugar. So much of sugar makes the food taste very artificial. And of course, sugar is addictive. Children get addicted to that and they reject the usual regular foods that you cook at house. And you go back and bring the food again back to your house because you want the child to eat something or the other. You keep buying, there is demand, the departmental stores again restock it, and that's how they're still surviving. So break this chain, break this pattern, and start offering varieties that you prepare at house rather than these brands. And also my humble request would not be to create replica recipes of these brands foods. Like, homemade boost, homemade Horlicks, homemade Cerelac. Why should we make these stuffs? Why can't we make simple, dal rice, rasam rice, sambar rice, paratha, sabjis, pongal, khichdi, upma? There are so many such varieties that we can prepare, which can be more nutritious when compared to these kind of recipes. And also imagine yourself, can you eat these recipes on a regular basis? There are also new brands that are coming up with a claim that they are not using, salt, they are not using sugar, they are not using maida and all of that. And people are asking me, is it okay to use such brands on a regular basis, on a daily basis? My question is that, imagine, do we all eat kappa Maggi on a regular basis? We don't. The reason is because we know that it is unhealthy. It can't be consumed on a daily basis. So now if I ask you to, buy a product from my own brand, imagine, I'm not going to come up with such a product, but I'm just saying, imagine I'm coming up with a brand which replicates Kappa Maggi in a healthier version. Okay, Kappa noodles, which is made out of millets or, whole wheat, whole grains, and all of that. And it gives you the required amount of nutrition on a daily basis of consumed for all 3 times. And, it's very delicious and it saves a lot of cooking time. You just need to pour hot water, wait for 10 minutes, and then tada, it is ready. Will you consume this on a regular basis, on a daily basis? I know most of your answers would be no. Maybe I will try once or twice, but I cannot eat the same food every day. Then why do we prepare such homemade Cerelac and homemade porridge recipes and get it from new brands and keep giving the same thing for the child on a daily basis? So occasionally, when you're not planning to cook for the entire family, you're planning to Swiggy for the entire family, then maybe using such products, safe products, can be considered fine. Or you're going for a longer travel and you're planning to take this also handy, that is also fine. But on a regular basis, on a daily basis, even if it is a good brand that gives you safe products with safe ingredients, or you have made that recipe at home by yourself, just imagine if it is okay for the child to consume the same thing on an everyday basis. Okay, so cooking time can be definitely minimized even with the simple foods that you cook at house for yourself. So imagine the child is just starting off with solids, and you're in a situation where you cannot add literally, the amount of spice that you have for the family. So add minimal spices, keep a separate portion for the baby, and then add rest of the spices and cook for the family. Just a small extra step if you can add, you can literally give whatever you eat as a family to your child. It's definitely not going to be a big deal. Okay. The next one that I'm going to talk about is why I don't generally recommend blending foods on an everyday basis. Okay, so just give me a minute. I'll drink water and I'll. Okay. So why won't I recommend giving purees, giving blended foods on a daily basis? One is that it lacks different textures. So puree basically is also a texture, right? Like you blend it, also it has some texture. Like say for example, curd is a texture, which is more like a pureed version, right? Sambar is a texture. So it is having textures, but the problem is that everything is of a very similar texture. There is no difference, huge difference in terms of textures when you start blending foods on an everyday basis. So it looks something like this, not like this, right? So it looks something like this. Every other food remains to be the same, it's just the color is different, right? The taste also, the taste of eating the food naturally in its form can be very different from how it is in a pureed form. Okay. So it is important to go for textures from the very beginning. And the reason is because these kind of pureed textures do not generally, help the child initiate the process of chewing. Okay, so chewing is very, 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 very important. Chewing is considered to be the very first step of digestion, right? So digestion doesn't start after going inside. Digestion starts right over here because chewing is considered the first step of digestion. Why is it considered the first step of digestion? Because while you're chewing, what you do, you secrete a lot of saliva. So when you secrete a lot of saliva and then swallow the food along with the saliva, more like the best digestive enzyme, digestion is better, nutritional absorption is better, everything is better when you, uh, chew the food properly well and you're eating it. So also on an average, you're supposed to chew a bite of food if you're taking. You're supposed to chew it 30 to 35 number of times before you swallow it. And then you take the second bite again, 30 to 35 times you're supposed to chew before you swallow. Of course, it changes with textures to textures. Like banana doesn't require as much chewing as a raw carrot does. But, it's all different. But on an average, it is 30 to 35 number of times before you swallow. That much of chewing is very, very important. And I'm pretty sure that most of the adults who are even watching this video might struggle, literally struggle to be able to do it. That's because we have been habituated to a different pattern. So we have been habituated in such a way that we tend to chew less and swallow, or we do improper chewing and then we swallow, we feel that lump, and then we drink water, push it downwards, and then we go with the second bite of food. That's how a lot of adults are doing these days. Okay, so the reason is because we were not given textures for a longer period of time, when especially during the window, when the reflexes that trigger chewing was too intact and powerful. Okay, so when it comes to chewing, there are a couple of reflexes which enables this process called as chewing. Okay, so one is basic bite reflex, and the other one is tongue lateralization reflex. So one is basic bite reflex, the other one is tongue lateralization reflex. Okay, so these two reflexes enables chewing. Let me show you how. Okay, I'm taking a corn on the cob. Okay, I'm bringing it near my mouth. The moment I bring it near my mouth, okay, there is a reflex that is happening, which is the basic bite reflex. Even before, giving any thought process, analyzing and all of that, the moment I bring it near my mouth, I'll give it a bite, right? That's basic bite reflex. Right after basic bite reflex is done, what happens? The tongue moves the food from side to side to side to side to side to side. And every time it goes between the gums, you keep biting it. So basic bite combined with tongue lateralization reflex enables the process called as chewing. Okay. So now, because this corn on the cob had a texture, the moment it came near my mouth, I was able to give it a bite, right? So now, in case, imagine I'm having a bowl of curd in front of me, okay, and I have a spoon. So I take a spoon of curd, put it inside my mouth, and then I swallow. So will you be able to use your basic bite reflex and tongue lateralization reflex with something that has a texture which is similar to puree? It is not possible. So something that doesn't come with textures do not trigger these reflexes. Like, texture similar to curd or puree, sambar or curries or something similar to that, they do not trigger these reflexes. So unless or until the food has, visible textures, it will not, trigger the reflexes. So one beautiful thing is that children are born with these reflexes. Okay, and these reflexes become more intact and powerful between a specific window, which is 6 and 10 months of age. It's between 6 and 10 months of age is when these reflexes are very intact. So when these reflexes are very intact, you're giving different types of textures for the baby to handle. Okay, they learn and master this art of chewing, and it gets so much into them, so much so that you can't take it away from them. So now imagine that I've told you the importance of chewing. I've told you that chewing is the first step of digestion. On an average, you're supposed to chew these many number of times before you swallow. It improves your digestion. It improves the nutritional absorption. Everything I've told you. Now that I've told you, now that you realize the importance of it, will you be able to easily inculcate it as a practice in your journey? Henceforth, from the very next meal, can you give me that guarantee? It's a huge question mark, right? It's not just because we've been habituated to a certain pattern. It's also because the reflexes are still present, but not that powerful or intact like how it was when it was between 6 and 10 months of age. So it is quite easier to learn and master the art of it when the reflexes are powerful and intact, when compared to the stage where the reflexes are faded away and you've already been habituated to a certain pattern. It becomes more difficult. So start giving textures to the child from the very beginning of starting solids. So if you're going with baby-led weaning, you will go with something called as finger foods. I'll explain you what finger foods are, how to offer it age appropriately and all of that. And if you're going ahead with traditional option, you don't have to use the mixie to blend it. Instead, use your hands. Use your hands and mash the food. Cook the food well, mash the food so that the child can handle it. It will still have some textures which will trigger chewing. So when it is completely blended is when it loses its tendency to trigger the reflexes. If it is just mashed using your hands, it will still have some textures to trigger the reflexes for sure. So use this as an opportunity to offer variety of textures so the child learns and masters the chewing process, and will be helpful for you later in life. You don't have to sit and ask the child to chew, and you don't have to keep giving instructions. So even if you say eat fast, they'll be like, I can only chew and eat, mom. How can I eat quickly? They'll ask you such questions. Because just like how improper chewing is so much into our body, proper chewing will be so much in tune with their body and they'll not be able to come out of it. They'll really chew well and eat because they've been habituated to that pattern, especially during the time when the reflexes were intact, they've practiced. So it will stay stronger in their body for a very longer period of time throughout their life, of course. Okay. And on top of it, of course, like how we discussed earlier, the more water you add, the lesser it becomes in nutritional value. So it is better you keep it thick. Okay. So the more thick it is, the more nutritious it is for the baby. Okay. So if you're going ahead with self-feeding, you'll go ahead by giving finger foods or hand mashed foods in preloaded spoons. You just load the spoon, keep it in front of the child, and the child can have it. Or if you're going to feed the child using traditional method, you will still use your hands to mash the food. That will be a better option. Okay, so either hand mashed foods or finger food will be a great choice if the child is between 6 and 10 months of age. And in case you are still skeptical about this, even after completely watching the session, the call is completely yours. Like if you're going to start with solids, start with solids in the form of purees, you can go ahead, but just try to switch to textures as early as possible. As early as possible. Within days means it will be amazing, or at least within 1 or 2 weeks, try to shift. Because constantly giving purees for a longer period of time, it has another impact. Let me tell you. Children depend on either sucking to swallow or chewing to swallow after 6 months. When they start with solids, there should be a progression. So from the time birth until 6 months, they depend on sucking to swallow. They suck on your breast, they suck on the bottles, and then they swallow. The sucking reflex will trigger the swallow reflex, and that is how they suck and swallow. So after 6 months, when you start with solids, they'll have to progress and start, depending more on chewing to swallow. So chewing is the reflex that will trigger the swallow reflex after 6 months. So babies generally depend on something or the other, either sucking or chewing. Now, when we start with solids and we give purees, what happens is that the child cannot use these reflexes, the basic bite reflex, tongue utilization, nothing gets triggered. So just like how I spoke, have a spoon of curd, even as an adult, you can't use these reflexes, right? So similarly, you take a spoon of puree, put it inside the child's mouth. What will happen is that the child will become a little clueless initially, and then they'll try the same reflex that they were using from the time of birth until 6 months for swallowing. What was that? It was chewing. I mean, it was sucking, right? So when you put the spoon inside their mouth, they'll be like, they start sucking the spoon like how they used to suckle the bottle or the breast. So now they get too used to this process. If you keep giving only purees for weeks together, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks and all, they'll get habituated to this, which is more easier for them. There is no work required to be done inside the mouth, right? They just have to suckle like how they were suckling over a bottle or a breast, which becomes more easier for them. So they'll be like, food also I'm supposed to suckle and swallow. They'll get too, habituated to that. And then when you bring in textures after a certain while, after a certain period of time, after weeks together, they'll start rejecting it because it will trigger the reflexes. Reflexes means it's a spontaneous natural response, right? It will trigger the reflex. The textures will trigger the reflex. When the reflexes gets triggered, they obviously work inside their mouth. They'll be like, oh my god, this requires a lot of work. I was eating something that gave me lesser work. It was more easier for me. And they'll start crying, throwing tantrums. You'll be like, oh my god, my child is not eating. I should somehow make the child go to the kitchen again, bring it back, again, bring it back. And the child will be like, okay, fine, throwing a tantrum will get me what I want. They'll constantly start doing that. So it becomes a huge struggle. So this is why I suggested hand mashed textures or finger foods right from the very beginning. Or if you're still unsure about this and you're starting with purees, just ensure that you shift to textures, hand mashed foods and finger foods as early as possible. Okay, as early as possible you can shift. All right. So yes, now you would have thought about, oh my god, how can a child chew without teeth? How do you chew? Have you ever noticed that? Like I showed you a little while ago. First bite you take, and then the rest all is happening here and here. Here, by little chewing you're doing, right? Only the first bite you're taking using the front portion. Have you ever thought about the first set of teeth that gets erupted in children? Is it the front portion or the side portion? Obviously, the front only gets erupted first, right? For the molars to erupt, it takes until toddler. So, just because the child only has, imagine, okay, you wait until the time the tooth eruption happens. Okay, let's imagine the tooth has gotten erupted. Four has come up. Okay, and now you think, okay, the child has teeth. Let me give textures. Do you think just because the child only has the front portion of teeth, you think they're going to chew like using only that portion? They're obviously going to chew on their sides where there is no tooth that is present. So do you think it makes sense to wait until toddlerhood to give textures at all? Until molars erupt? Not at all, right? So children's gums, unlike we imagine it to be, is very, very strong. Okay? So whatever that can get mashed between your fingers can get easily chewed by the child's gums. Okay, so always do the pinch test before you offer. That's more than enough. If you're able to pinch the food, okay, and it gets mashed between your fingers, that is more than enough for the child to be able to chew with zero tooth. They don't need it. So gums are more than enough for chewing, and teeth is only required for breaking certain varieties. The certain varieties require breaking. Okay, so only those varieties you need to delay it, or you need to modify and give it in such a way that it is easy for the child to handle. Otherwise, anything that can be mashed between your fingers is perfectly fine. They can very easily chew. So teeth is for breaking, gum is for chewing. So remember this concept. Okay. So now, based on their dexterity, we'll have to prepare the food accordingly. Not just based on the dexterity. Also considering the fact that they are just starting, we should make the food more easily recognizable by the brain. Okay. So now just take a look at these two pieces of food. Okay. These two pieces of food, just take a look at it. I'm going to stop the screen sharing so that you can see my screen in a bigger version. Okay. Take a look at these two pieces. Which one is easily recognizable? Think about it. So obviously the bigger one, right? The bigger is easily recognizable by the brain. So for children who are just starting off with solids, the bigger is always the better. And not only because of that, from the time of birth until around 9.5 months of age, child is going to grab onto any object using their entire palm. So if you, take a look at this particular picture, just a minute, I'll share the screen again. You take a look at this particular picture, the first picture, everybody does this, right? Go to a newborn, bring your fingers, they'll give it a nice grab using their entire palm. So that's called as palmar grasp. Okay, so that is what is going to be present until 9.5 months of age. The second picture that you're seeing, that's my daughter when she was 7.5 months of age, and she's eating muskmelon using her entire palm. Okay, so that's how children hold on to food. So when the food is of a size which is similar to your fingers, one finger length, two finger width. Okay, so something similar to that. The child holds on to it, there'll be something that will remain outside for the child to be able to eat, right? So imagine the size of the food is too small. It's difficult for the child to pick it up using the palm grasp itself because it is too tiny for them to pick it up. And even if they have managed to pick it up, it will completely get hidden inside their hands and they'll be clueless about what can be eaten. They cannot eat anything. Instead, if it is of this size and they are holding it using their palm grasp, there'll be something that will remain outside for them to eat. And once they're done eating that portion, they'll throw the remaining rest, which is stuck inside their hand, which is hidden inside their hand, and they'll go for the next bigger piece of food. That is how they go about during the initial days. Okay, and then there will come a stage where the child crosses 9.5 months of age, and you will start noticing that the child is developing something called as pincer grasp. Okay, they'll develop something called as pincer grasp. So this pincer grasp is the ability to pick objects using two of their fingers, which is index and thumb finger. Okay, so this is the very first, kind of fine motor skill that they are going to develop. So they use their fingers to pick objects. So you'll notice that the child is going to the nook and corner of the house and start picking small, tiny little dirts and all of that. So that's when you will realize that, okay, fine, the child is into a stage where the child is developing pincer grasp. So once you notice the child doing all of this, once you notice that the child is using their fingers apart from their palm for picking objects, you can start reducing the size of the food and make it into small bite-sized pieces. So that it will be easy for them to develop their pincer grasp. It will become more like an opportunity for them to develop this new skill that they have developed, that they have recently learned. Okay. And on the other hand, since the child is close to 9.5 months of age, the child would have also seen different food varieties. Their brain would have become more familiar with the fact that they are eating food on a regular basis. So even smaller size will become easily recognizable for them by then. So you can reduce the size of the food by then and make it into small bite-sized pieces. Okay, so initially when you're starting, you will give something similar to finger foods. So finger foods, as in, it's not only fruits or vegetables. Anything can be given as a finger food, which can be made a little bigger. So of course, fruits, vegetables, meat, like chicken drumsticks on the bones, mutton chops on the bones, bigger, larger bones. Even without a lot of flesh, you can give it such a resistive food that the child can actually handle easily. Okay, so mango pit along with some flesh around it. And then what else? Idli strips can be given, dosa strips can be given, omelette strips can be given. So these can be given as finger foods. Okay, you can cut it into rectangular strips and the child can hold it using the palm grasp. So anything that can be cut into bigger sizes is considered a finger food. The name finger food came into existence because it is of size of your finger, that is one finger length and two finger width, or one finger length and one finger width. It will be easy for the child to hold using their entire palm. That is the reason why this concept called as finger food came into existence. Okay, so initially you start with finger foods and then you switch to small bite-sized pieces, okay, which will help the child develop pincer grasp. All right. So now the consistency is also very important. So it shouldn't be too firm and hard. It shouldn't be too floppy as well. So it should be of the right consistency. So how do you know if the food has gotten cooked in the right consistency? When you try to press and mash, it should get mashed between your fingers. So that is the right consistency. On the other hand, okay, it shouldn't be too floppy as well. So if it's too floppy, also it will get mashed between your fingers. But you don't know whether it's too floppy or, correct consistency, right? For that, remember Kaju Katli. Kaju Katli is usually of a consistency which is firm yet soft. When you try to press and mash it between your fingers, it beautifully gets mashed, right? But it remains firm. It's not too floppy like a Mysore pak. Mysore pak is not considered okay because it's too floppy. It can, the moment you take a piece and try to put it inside your mouth, it just get broken and go back again into the dappa, right? That's not how it should be. That's too floppy. But it should be like a Kaju Katli, which is firm yet soft. Okay, I'm going to stop screen sharing. I'm going to show you a few examples of right consistency, shapes, textures, and all of that. Okay. Now, I've taken a huge broccoli floret over here. So not exactly the size of my finger, but since it's huge in size, it's definitely a good to go. So if you try to press it between your fingers, it should get mashed like this. See how it's getting mashed, right? But it is firm. It's not so floppy. I'm trying to twist and turn. It's not getting broken and it's not falling off. Instead, when I try to press and mash between my fingers is when it's getting mashed. All right? Can you notice? Yeah? Okay. Now, like I mentioned, omelette strips, dosa strips, idli can be cut into wedges like this and it can be dipped in sambar or chutney or whatever you prepared. You can give it for the child so that, again, more like a finger food. So when you press it gets mashed, so definitely a good to go. Dosa also, you can cook it in soft forms. Rotis, if it is very much staple in your place and you're planning to give rotis, instead of giving dry rotis, go for stuffed parathas. That will be even more easier for the child to handle. So if you stuff uh, the paratha using aloo or gobi or something similar to that, it makes it more moist. And that moisture will ensure that it is soft and pressable and mashable. So you can go for such paratha strips, dosa strips, omelette strips. Okay, that can be given as a finger food. And then now, does everything require cooking? That is another question commonly that I get. Like, say, for example, if you're thinking about giving banana. Do you think banana requires cooking? Think about the pinch test. Can you pinch and press and mash it between your fingers? If yes is your answer, that doesn't require cooking. So obviously banana doesn't require cooking. Does kiwi require cooking? No, it doesn't require cooking. Does carrot require cooking? Yes, carrot requires cooking. Carrot requires cooking so that when you try to press and mash it between your fingers, again, that should get mashed between your fingers like this. So you should cook it until it is soft. Okay. And then does apple require cooking? So it depends on what kind of variety that you're planning to offer. Now, if you would like to offer raw apples without cooking, then you can go ahead and grate it. There are fine graters available, no? So get those fine graters and keep it handy at your house. Then if you're willing to give grated apples, then you can go for raw version. Raw version of apple can be grated finely, then that can be loaded into spoon and you can give it to the child. Similar, I don't have grated apple today, but I've grated cucumber today. So cucumbers can be grated as well. Since cucumber is not something that can be, cooked and it completely gets floppy within seconds. Okay, and at the same time, the raw cucumber is also a little difficult to handle. So either paper thin slices of cucumber, that's again way too complicated. So not everybody, they are comfortable with offering paper thin slices of cucumber, paper thin slices of pineapple, paper thin slices of apple. They're all generally considered safe for children. But if you're skeptical about giving paper thin slices isn't, it should be cut into slices that is as thin as a paper. It shouldn't be thicker. Okay, so it should be very, very thin, similar to a paper. And the width and length should be of, your finger size. So either you can go for that or you can go for grated versions. Grated raw apples, grated pineapples, grated cucumbers are even more, much more safer options. Okay, so you can grate apples or pineapples or cucumbers like this and you can preload it in the spoon like this and you can give it to the child. So the child can hold the spoon using their palmar grasp and they can eat it. They'll not directly get it from you and eat it like a pro. They'll take the wrong side of the spoon, they'll put the food down, food will fall off, they'll get agitated about it. The ones they grab the spoon, they will not give this back to you. You have to have another spoon along with you. All these practical difficulties will be there. But mistakes and such kind of scenarios, it's very much a part of learning. So you don't have to worry about all of this. You can still continue doing it with patience, which definitely is not that easy, but with determination, you will definitely be able to. So preloaded spoons of rice, the rice, khichdi and all can be given. Rice and all, you can mix it along with curries, just mash it slightly using your hands and then preload it using the spoon and keep it in front of the child. The child can take preloaded spoons of rice, preloaded spoons of khichdi, preloaded spoons of pongal, preloaded spoons of upma. There are so many varieties that you can offer from the very big. Okay. So there are, I think, a couple of more varieties that I wanted to show. I'll show it to you later. There is also another option of giving apples. You can steam apple wedges for a while like this. So I would say that this is an example of floppy cooking. See, if I just hold it like this for a while, what happens? It's going to fall off for sure. See? Did you notice? So this is not, I've cooked it a little extra today, unfortunately. So you'll have to take it out a little while before so that it gets to the right consistency. So it should be soft, that is pressable and mashable, but not this floppy. So when it is this floppy, they exert a lot of pressure to hold the food. They exert a lot of pressure, it gets squished completely and makes them feel a little agitated. So you can also cook apples and give it in this particular form, that also is considered perfectly fine. But what I have done today is a wrong example. So you can take it out a little while before so that it is in the right consistency, firm yet soft. So that it is mashable between your fingers. Okay. There are a couple of more varieties. I'll show you while I discuss about a particular topic, right? Okay. And I'll share the screen for a while. All right. Now, there are a list of food varieties which are considered to be choking hazards. Okay. Now let's learn what choking is basically. So choking is when the food or any object for that matter, not just food, any object for that matter, if it mistakenly enters the airway instead of the food pipe. Okay. And whatever has entered inside the airway, if it lodges the airway, and because of which breathing becomes impossible, and that leads to choking. Okay. So now choking is not common at all. Choking is not common. It is very, very uncommon. And also there are preventive protective mechanisms which are naturally present in the body to prevent episodes of choking. Okay, so there are mechanisms that are present in the body which prevents episodes of choking. So like say, for example, reaction tongue thrust reflex. That itself is a way of preventing our own body. So that's a reflex that is present from the time of birth, right? And then there is another reflex called as gag reflex. Okay, so when gag reflex is triggered is when gagging happens, which is often mistakenly, considered as choking by a lot of people. What you're going to predominantly see in this journey of solids with your child is what is gagging. So gagging is pretty common and gagging is safer as well. Okay, so gagging is what you're going to see. That is basically a protective act that is done by the body to prevent episode of choking. Okay, we'll discuss a little bit in detail about gagging in the forthcoming slides. But before that, that's another preventive mechanism. And then there is something called as epiglottis, a leaf-like structure in your body that is present over the top of your food pipe and windpipe. It usually closes the windpipe when you are attempting to swallow itself. So when you are attempting to swallow, the epiglottis usually, kind of closes the windpipe so that the food enters the food pipe properly. So it's more like a prevention of the food particle to enter into the airway and then lungs. So that epiglottis is also a preventive mechanism that your body naturally has. There are so many such preventive mechanisms to prevent episodes of choking. Okay, but due to certain mistakes that are being made, like non-monitoring the child, keeping the child in a wrong position, offering the food in an unsafe manner, these all might lead to choking. There is a possibility. So what do? We ensure that we keep the child in the right position. We ensure that we monitor the child 24/7, because more than 50% of the choking incidents are super, super rare. Very, very uncommon. Not common at all. Okay. But if it happens with whatever that has happened until now, more than 50% of the incidents are happening because of some other objects and not food. Food is very, very rare. Okay, so when it comes to other objects like, button battery, a small pearl from your chain, or any such thing can, lead to choking, a small toy or whatsoever. So you need to monitor the child 24/7 and ensure that they don't put such things inside their mouth. That is the next step. When it comes to food in specific, we need to offer it in the most safest form. So there are certain varieties of foods which are considered as choking hazards because of its nature. So now what we're going to do is we're going to discuss, how to make these food varieties in the most safest form for the child. Okay, so small and round foods are considered to be choking hazards. I hope you've taken a look at this particular slide. I'm going to turn off the screen sharing so that you can see my screen in a bigger version. Okay, so small and round food varieties are considered to be choking hazards. Let me tell you the reason. Okay, so if you take a piece of grapes with me, it's a small food and a round food, right? So the moment you keep it in one place, due to its round nature, it cannot stay in one place. So it just keeps rolling up, right? It has a tendency to quickly roll here and there. Also, on the other hand, imagine this to be the airway. So it can completely lodge the airway. There is a possibility for that as well. So this is the reason why foods that are small and round are considered as choking hazards. So say for example, fruits like berries and cherries like strawberry, blueberry, blackberry, cherry, all these are considered hazards. So what do we do to make it safe? Flatten it, mash it so that it doesn't roll over, and also it loses its tendency to go and lodge the airway completely. Strawberry, just put it in a bowl, use the backside of the fork or spoon to mash it, or use your hands to mash it, and then you can give it to the child. Blueberry, you can just squish, press, and flatten it, and then you can give it to the baby. Blackberry, cherry, cherry, you'll have to remove the stone inside, and then flatten it, press it, mash it, and then you can give it to the baby. So this is how you can make berries and cherries safe for children. And then comes lentils and legumes. Lentils and legumes as in dal varieties, and then, peas, chickpeas, rajma, black-eyed peas and varieties like that. This also has the same tendency to quickly move away, right? So what do? You turn it into another shape, okay? So that it doesn't move away and it doesn't lodge the airway completely. So what do? Just press and flatten it so that it doesn't move like how it usually does. Just press and flatten it so that it doesn't move quickly. And also now, since it is flat and not round, it cannot lodge the airway completely as well. So lentils and legumes also, you thoroughly mash it before you give it to the child. Okay. And then fruits with larger seeds like watermelon seeds, muskmelon seeds, country cucumber seeds, grape seeds, all of these seed varieties you will remove before you offer it to the child. Okay, so kiwi seeds, banana seeds, and all isn't a cause of concern. The other types is what I mentioned. Okay, watermelon, muskmelon, country cucumber, grapes, guava, these kind of seed varieties, you can remove before you offer the apple seeds, pear seeds, okay. And then comes grapes. So grapes cannot be flattened or squished. So what you do is you quarter it. Okay, you take a knife, cut it into lengthwise halves like this. Okay, and then what you do is cut it into lengthwise quarters like this, so that it loses its tendency to quickly move away, right? So now, see, even if it does move, it's moving in a much slower version. Okay, so even if you keep like this, even if it's moving away, it will move a little slower when compared to a whole grape, which can easily move the moment it is placed in one place. It keeps moving, wherein the quartered version doesn't. See, even if I'm shaking, it's not going to move as quickly as how a round one moves. So quartered grapes are considered safe for children. So for pomegranates, you'll put it in a bowl, use the backside of the fork to completely flatten the seeds before you offer. Okay, so completely flatten it and then you can. And corn can be given on the cob like this. Corn on the cob is always considered safe because children generally have the tendency to keep gnawing at it, like they will gnaw at it. They'll not be able to pull out a complete kernel out of the cob. So loose kernels are generally considered hazards, wherein when corn is on the cob, it's generally considered safe for children. So corn on the cob is good to go, but loose kernels, it's better you. Okay. At least until 1.5 years of age, it's better you avoid loose kernels. And one more thing is that until when should I follow all these safety measures? Now, when it comes to corn, I said at least until 1.5 years, right? So even 2.5 years it might take for some children. So it all depends on how quickly the child is developing skills. And also, I would recommend you to wait until a certain stage where the child is able to understand the consequences that you're explaining. So if you are telling things like, Kanna, this is not safe for you, this is unsafe, you're not supposed to do this, will cause this kind of an issue, if you're able to tell that and they're able to follow that. So of course, toddlers, they'll exactly do it they'll exactly do the opposite of what you're trying to convey. So it is impossible for you to control certain things. So the more and more you keep it safe, the more and more, I think it is advisable. So when you talk about the next slide I'll show you. When you talk about nuts are generally considered choking hazards until 3 or 4 years of age. Like cashew nuts, almonds, pistachios, walnuts, all of these are considered choking hazards until 3 or 4 years of age. Okay, so I think until then it is better we keep things safe, or until a certain point of stage where you feel the confidence about the child's skills in terms of biting, chewing, tearing, swallowing, and all of that. It is better you follow the safer measures for all the foods that was mentioned even in the previous slide. Okay, so nuts are hazards until 3-4 years of age. So until then, it's either nuts powder or nut butter. It's either nuts powder or nut butter. Nut butter again is a choking hazard because of its kind of tasty, sticky, thicker nature. It is still a choking hazard. So what you do is you dilute it. So nut butters, you use a little bit of water to dilute it, and then you can spread it across onto anything in a thin, even manner so that it makes it more easier for the child to handle. So nut powder is even more a safer option. You can add it to curries or even fruits can be coated in nuts powder and it can be given for a better grip. That also is a good option basically. But just ensure that you give either nuts powder or nut butter and not whole nuts until at least 3 or 4 years of age. Okay. And then comes dried fruit versions like fig, prunes, apricot, kiwi, and stuff like that. And all, you just ensure that you hydrate it again. You soak it in water for some time so that it becomes soft. And then you can blend it along with something as an ingredient. So that will be a better option. Okay. So dry fruits can be soaked, dehydrated, and then blend it with something as an ingredient. Say, for example, you're preparing a cake or pancake or something similar to that. Then you can, blend these soaked dry fruits as an ingredient along with the batter. That will be a better choice. And then comes stone fruits. So stone fruits as in cherry, plum, peach, apricot. You'll have to remove the stone before you offer it to the child. All right. So mango pit, it is a different story. Like I mentioned earlier, mango pit is so huge that it is a resistive food. It cannot even enter an adult's mouth completely. So mango pit is a completely safe food. It can be given along with a little bit of flesh. But the small round stones, it definitely has to be removed. Like peach, plum, apricot, cherry, you'll have to remove the stone before you offer it with the child. And then comes chips, crackers, chocolates. It's better we avoid. Okay, so potatoes, there are so many other forms that can be given in a safer version, but potato chips or crackers or whatsoever, it's better we avoid for children. And then comes vegetables. Raw vegetables are choking hazards because they do not get pressed and mashed between your fingers when you try and do that. So you cook it until soft before you offer. That's a simple rule that you have to follow. Okay. Next one is food that has skin which are difficult to chew are considered as hazards, like tomato, apple, pear, any skin that has, that's more like a thicker skin, then you have to remove before you offer it. Like a blueberry skin, grape skin and all usually doesn't require peeling. But tomato, apple, pear and stuff like that which has thicker skin, it's better you remove the skin before you offer it to the child. And then comes meat which has skin. So any skin or loose cartilage, please remove before you offer. So chicken on the bones, like chicken drumsticks on the bones, mutton chops on the bones, all these are usually considered very safe for children because they're again resistive foods. It cannot enter the child's mouth completely. But if you are talking about fishes that come with small, tiny, teeny bones inside, then you have to remove those bones before you offer fish to the child. Okay, that alone you need to remember. The next one is salad leaves. Salad leaves like lettuce and all. You can finely chop into small, tiny, small chops you can do, and you can add it to the child's diet. And since spinach and cabbage is coming under the leaves category, it is specifically mentioned over here, but it again has the very same rule. So what you have to do, you'll have to wait until it gets cooked really well before you offer. So when you do the pinch test, it has to pass the pinch test before you offer. Okay, so now when you talk about bones, chicken on the bones, mutton on the bones, mango pit. Mango pit doesn't get pressed between your fingers, but you're giving it because it is completely like a rock stone that doesn't get mashed, but still it is very resistive and the child cannot break it into pieces. On the other hand, they cannot completely put it over their mouth as well. The same applies for bones as well, right? So that is why chicken bones, mutton bones, mango pit and all are considered resistive foods, though the bones doesn't get mashed between your fingers, though the pit doesn't get mashed between your fingers. But these varieties like veggies, fruits, dosa, idli, upma, and stuff like that, just ensure that you do the pinch test before you offer. Okay, so now the miscellaneous category, compressible pieces of meat. Sometimes, though you try your level best to cook it as tenderly as possible, you might still be skeptical about the consistency of the meat, especially red meat and varieties like that. So if you're unsure about the consistency, go ahead and mince it. So mince it, mix it along with rice and curry, make balls and give it to the child, or you can make patties and give it to the child. So when you're unsure, go ahead and mince and then prepare something out of the minced meat. Okay, so that will be a better option when you're unsure about the consistency. The next one is nut butter or spreads. Like we discussed earlier, they are considered to be choking hazards. So you'll have to dilute it and spread it over anything in an even thin manner so that it becomes safer for the child. Okay. And then comes fibrous or stringy foods like pineapple. I think we discussed about pineapple and cucumber, raw apple, paper thin slices, and all of that, right? So here is an image from this website called as Solid Starts. Okay, SOLIDSTARTS. I'm highlighting it over here. SOLID. Just look at the screen. I'm highlighting it over here. SOLIDSTARTS. That's the name of the app as well as their website. So they have evidence-based, research-based, reviewed information on starting solids. Okay, like say for example, we have discussed about multiple varieties during the session today, but still, while you're practically implementing certain things in your journey, you might get questions like, how do I give this particular variety, how to safely offer, when to offer. These kind of questions might keep popping up even after you start solids. So this particular website, you just go to Google and search for pineapple solid starts. You'll get a link. You just click on that link and you'll be able to see when is the right time to start pineapples. What all the nutritional benefits does pineapple offer to children? And is it a choking hazard? If yes, then how do you make it safe? Is it a common allergen? Then if yes, then how do you handle it? How to age appropriately cut and prepare it for the child. Video representations, pictorial representations will be there. So this is not just with pineapple, with any food for that matter. All the first food database, they have it for free. It's not chargeable. It is available for free. Okay, like apples, cucumber, and then different nuts, different seeds, different meat varieties, lentils, legumes, everything they have information about, which is 100% evidence based, okay, research based, and also it is reviewed by a lot of professionals as well. Whatever information that they are sharing, it is reviewed by professionals as well. So 100% trustworthy website, which can be definitely useful for you. Such a great resource, because you don't have to sit and break your head about how do I prepare, is it okay to give, when is the right time to give. You don't have to worry about that. You just have to go search for it and you'll get all the information. For example, if you take a look at this, for babies who are between 6 and 7 months, 2 finger width and 1 finger length of paper thin size sliced pineapple. If you're not comfortable with paper thin slices, like I discussed earlier, you can go for finely grated version. Now, for babies who are between 8 and 9 months, they've just reduced the width to an extent. The length remains the same because the child is not yet 9 months. They wouldn't have developed pincer grasp. And now, post 9 months, small bite-sized pieces of pineapple to help the child develop pincer grasp better. So this is just an example of what we discussed, right? So you will see similar pictorial and video representations for all the food that you're, willing to offer to your child. Every first food database is available in that particular website and app for free. So you can have it handy throughout your feeding journey. It's definitely going to be helpful. Okay. Now, we are now going to discuss about gagging and choking, the difference between the two, and how do you handle these. Okay. So first of all, when it comes to gagging, like I mentioned earlier in the session, what you're going to predominantly see during this journey of starting solids is what is gagging. The child is going to gag a lot for sure. Okay. And gagging is a reflex that prevents episodes of choking. Okay, let me explain you what gagging is first. So if you've ever been in a situation where you feel like vomiting, but bloody it's just not coming out, then you feel like putting your fingers deep inside your throat, go touch a particular zone, and then you go, right? You take everything out and you feel that relief, right? So the moment you put a solid object inside your mouth, you go a little bit deeper inside and go to the posterior region, touch a particular place, a zone, and something gets triggered and you naturally respond like, that's what is gagging. So there is a gag zone in everybody's body. When a solid object touches that gag zone, immediately gag reflex gets triggered, and the response will look something like this. Okay. So now, how do you say that this prevents episodes of choking? Because I have a fear that this is the common question that I get. Okay? So I have a fear that what if my child takes a bigger bite? What if it mistakenly enters the airway of the child? Even if there is gag zone, instead of going and touching the gag zone, what if the bigger bite mistakenly enters the airway? And what if the child doesn't chew well and what if the child tries to swallow? Will it not cause choking? That's the most common question that a lot of parents have. Let me explain. Again, a beautiful thing in children's body is that their gag zone is not located in the posterior region, wherein their gag zone is located much far forward. Okay, so if you've noticed the child mouthing, so mouthing is something that starts around 3.5, 4 months of age itself, right? So whatever they take in hand, they start doing nom 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 nom, right? So imagine they're doing nom nom nom. Have you ever noticed that? Nom 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 nom. Have you ever noticed them do blah blah while mouthing? It's because their gag zone is located over here, far forward, much far forward. It's not in the posterior region like how it is for adults. For children, the gag zone is located far forward. So the moment a solid object touches their gag zone, like their gag reflex gets triggered. So now imagine a child taking a bigger bite. They will take a bigger bite. It is going to happen, inevitably. Only by taking bigger bites, only by experiencing gagging, they will learn how much of a bite should I take, how to properly chew before I swallow. All of these learnings will happen by making all of these mistakes. It's a part of learning. Okay. So now imagine a child is taking a bigger bite. Okay. They're taking a huge, larger bite. Like the moment they put it inside their mouth itself, they'll start gagging. Or imagine they've managed to take the bigger bite. One larger piece has gone inside their mouth. So what will happen? After the basic bite, tongue lateralization will happen, right? So when tongue lateralization is happening, food is traveling from here to here, here to here, here to here. There is 100% of a possibility for it to touch the gag zone, right? They'll start doing. They'll take it out. So when you gag as an adult, imagine when you gag, what you do? Your body naturally tends to come forward, get aligned with the gravity. Your tongue usually opens up your lips. Whatever is there inside the tongue, it tends to get out because the tongue, which is in a flat it's more like a flat surface. But while gagging, it just comes forward more like a slide. So whatever is there inside the tongue, it just slides outside. And also that if you, imagine yourself doing, you'll notice that your tongue closes both the food pipe and the windpipe. So whatever is there inside is only going to get out and it's not going to get inside. And this is how gagging is going to prevent episodes of choking. So the moment the child takes a bigger bite or while the child is handling the bigger bite, it will trigger gagging and the child will take it out. Now imagine the food is broken down into small pieces while the child is attempted to chew and they still haven't, completely chewed it well and they're trying to swallow. If this happens also, the posterior pharyngeal muscles will contract and push the food forward again and will give the body another opportunity to chew it well before they attempt to swallow again. That also is another way with how gagging gets triggered. So, if the baby is sitting in the right position, if the baby is being monitored, if the baby is given food in a consistency that the child can actually handle age appropriately, what is going to happen is what is gagging and it is not choking. So if gagging happens, you will notice the child doing all of this will happen. And that is where parents are panicking. Parents starts panicking. Like, wow, face becomes red, eyes becomes watery. Oh my God, what my child is going through. But you need to, get all this information into your head that when the child is loud and red, it's normal. Them doing wah, breathing, and their face becoming red, eyes becoming watery, are all the signs that the child is doing very much fine. Just that for us, it will look like, oh my God, the child is going through something that is bad thing, but for them, it is not. Especially for a child who is just starting off, they'll be more open to all of this. After gagging, they'll be like continuing to eat as if nothing happened. But for children who are 1 year, 1.5 years, they might outrightly reject this process because they've gotten used to something, else which is more easier and comfortable. So this is why the earlier the better. Again, giving textures. Okay. So while they're gagging, they'll be loud, they'll be red. So there is this famous saying called as loud and red, let them go ahead. Silent and blue is when they need help from you. Okay. So this is a very famous saying. Loud and red, let them go ahead. Silent and blue, they need help from you. So now when the child is loud, when the child is red, when the child is wah, you don't have to pat their head, you don't have to pat their back, you don't have to give water, you don't have to do anything. Just let the child do the job and protect themselves. They're capable of doing that. You should sit and watch. That's it. So putting your fingers inside and starting to search for where the food is and trying to take it out with an intention of helping the baby might go wrong because you might push the food further inside and that might lead to choke. So don't put your fingers inside the child's mouth and start searching for food. That is not at all recommended. Okay. And on the other hand, if it is something like an idli or sweet potatoes, which has triggered gagging, and it has also gotten stuck on the palate, which is very much, visible in the front of the child's mouth, front side of the child's mouth. You're visibly seeing, and since it is stuck on the palate, it's not coming out, then put your hooked fingers. Don't put your pointed fingers, put your hooked fingers, and then you can take it out. If you're visibly seeing the food right in front of the mouth. If you're not able to see the food, don't put your fingers searching for the food. It is not at all recommended. It can only make things worse. So always remember this. Loud and red, let them go ahead. Silent and blue is when they need help from you. While the child is gagging, the child will do wah, wah. The tongue will come outside. Whatever is there is going to get outside. Some children, they'll gag and they'll manage to chew as well. That also is there. Okay, so coughing also will happen, which is a very good sign. Even when a child is choking, if coughing is happening, it is an indication that at least partially the block is getting removed. Okay, so coughing is really a good thing. Don't panic. Don't pat their head. You don't have to pat their back as well. Just let the child cough and gag. It is completely safe. It is completely a protective, preventive mechanism. Don't do anything about it. In case at any point of time, while eating or not while eating, the child is doing something else, and you're noticing that the child is not able to breathe. The child is just stuck, like they're stuck, or they're trying to cough, but they're not able to cough, like, or ineffective cough is what is coming out of the body, not breathing, not in action, body is turning blue. You have to start performing the first aid. Okay, the first step of first aid is to do back blows followed by chest thrusts. And if that didn't work out, you'll have to start performing CPR. I'm going to show you a couple of videos on how to perform this. But when the child is stuck, not in action, not breathing, or trying to cough but unable to cough, ineffective cough is what is coming out, and you'll have to start performing the first aid. Okay. Again, one more time I'm repeating. I think I'm repeating multiple times, but that's okay. Loud and red, let them go ahead. Silent and blue, they need help from you. Okay, so when you notice them silent and blue, you'll have to start performing the first aid. I'm going to show you a couple of videos. Okay. I'll turn on the audio.
If your child has an ineffective cough, or they're silent, so they are, or that's not a strong lungful of air in or out, then we need to intervene. We're going to take the baby out of the high chair or whatever it is that they're in. We're going to lay them down across our laps. Hold them so that you're not going to drop them. Ideally, we want their bottom higher than their head. And we're going to give back blows and chest thrusts. A back blow is not a whack on the back. Using the heel of your hand between their shoulder blades, it is a firm blow to expel the air out of their lungs to try and pop that object out. We can give up to 5 back blows followed by up to 5 chest thrusts. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Checking after each blow to see if the object has come out. If the object comes out after the first one, you don't need to give all 5. If the object has not come out, turn your child over. Once again, bottom higher than their head and holding them firmly. We're going to give chest thrusts. 2 fingers for a small baby, heel of your hand for a bigger baby or child. On the centre of their chest, over the hard breastbone. This is not on their tummy. We are not doing the Heimlich manoeuvre in children. We're going to give up to 5 chest thrusts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If that hasn't worked, turn them back over. Go back into your back blows again and continue 5, 5, 5, 5 until either the object comes out or they become unconscious.
Okay, so the moment you notice that the child is silent or blue, you start helping the child by performing the first aid. To perform the first aid, get the child into the position that was shown in the video and ensure that the bottom is a little higher than the head. So don't miss out this point, okay? So while you're holding the baby, the moment you notice that the child is choking, don't keep the baby upright. Bring the child right into this position where the head is a little downwards and the bottom is a little, okay? So bottom should be higher than the head. And while you're performing, the reason why the bottom is higher than the head is because when the child is upright or when the child is flat and not like this, there is a possibility for gravity to, get the object further down into the body and make it more difficult for the first aid to be effective. So for the first aid to be effective, the position has to be properly done first, and for that, ensure that the child's bottom is higher than the head. You start by giving back blows between the shoulder blades. There is a region, right? So that's where you'll have to give the blow. The blow has to be given using the heel of your hand. It's not a whack, okay? You should not keep tapping or patting. You should give a nice blow using the heel of your hand. And after 5 back blows, you turn the child's position. But again, still you ensure that the bottom is higher than the head. And then in between their chest, you'll give 5 chest thrusts. So for smaller babies, you'll use 2 of your fingers. So after 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if there's still no improvement, again get the baby back to the same position. Again, 5 blows and followed by 5 thrusts. You continue 5, 5, 5, 5, either until the object comes out. If the object comes out, the airway gets cleared, child will start breathing, the child will start crying, the child will start coughing. You will see these things happen. So you can start pacifying the child. You don't have to continue doing the process. If while doing these things, you notice that the child is becoming floppy, unconscious, you'll have to start performing CPR. So that is what they're going to show right.
Make sure that we always have our baby or child on a hard surface. If they're in a cot or a bed and we go to do compressions, we'll bounce them and we won't get a good chest compression. In a baby, we use 2 fingers in the same position as a child, the centre of the chest over that hard breastbone. Once again, we are pressing down 1/3 the depth of the chest over the hard breastbone in the centre of the chest at a rate of 100 to 120 compressions a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. To do the breaths in a baby, we're going to open their airway. We're going to put our mouth over their mouth and nose. You simply do this to any age where they become too big for you to comfortably do this. While you're holding open the airway, simply put in enough breath from the contents of your cheeks. A puff is all we need. Don't try and force air into the baby's lungs. That can cause damage. 1, 2. Once we've done our 2 breaths, we move straight back into compressions. If you think that your breaths haven't worked, don't waste time doing more. It is simply 2 quick attempts at breath and then straight back into the compressions. Because remember, if we're wasting time on perfecting our breaths, we are not on their chest pumping that blood around the body.
Right? So 30 chest compressions followed by 2 breaths is considered to be a cycle of CPR. Okay. So the moment you notice that the child is choking, ask another person in the family to call the emergency. So until the person arrives or until you reach the emergency spot, like the hospital, you'll have to continue performing the first aid by yourself. So while you're performing CPR, ensure that the child is on a flat surface and not on a bouncy surface like a cot or sofa, which will make your first aid ineffective again. So for it to be effective, the child has to be on a flat surface. So 1 cycle of CPR is 30 chest compressions followed by 2 breaths. Don't keep giving breaths thinking that that's what is going to help. So after 2 attempts of breaths, go straight back into the compressions. All right. So now, apart from the video that you are seeing in the recording, you'll also be getting a few other resources, trustworthy resources that you can, watch and, get yourself equipped with the right knowledge to perform the first aid. So I would highly recommend any parent to learn this. So it's not like, oh, I'm going to do traditional, so I'm not going to learn all this scary. Don't, neglect it like that, because choking, can happen for children even with liquid sometimes if the position is not right. Okay, and sometimes, children have food in the mouth, keep running here and there. Sometimes people are okay with distraction feeding. They distract the child. Child is concentrating on something else, food enters the mouth. So there is a possibility of choking even with traditional methods. So it is important for any parent to learn this, irrespective of the method that you're planning to follow. It's 100% important. Not just this, I would highly recommend learning first aid even for cough, cold, cut wound, bruise, scald, these stuffs as well, because not everybody are aware of the right and the safest first aid that can be performed before taking the child to the emergency. It's very important for parents to learn all of this. You can even discuss about all of this with your pediatrician as well. Okay, and now comes allergens. So dairy products, shellfish, eggs, tree nuts, peanuts, wheat, soy products. These are considered to be allergens, common allergens. Some can be allergic even to certain uncommon varieties like melons, corn, brinjal, coconut milk. Okay, so some might be allergic to these varieties as well. So, but these varieties that are mentioned here are considered to be common allergens. Okay, so now when you talk about allergic reactions, it could range anywhere from rashes, hives, swollen tongue, swollen lips, swollen face, diarrhea, vomiting. So all these could be allergic reactions. Okay, so now as per recent studies, it is important to introduce allergens earlier. Okay, and once you have started, it is important to continue giving it on a regular basis. Okay, to prevent possibilities of allergies later in life. Except for shellfish, all the other products can be introduced earlier. The shellfish alone, there is no concrete evidence as to, introducing it earlier is going to prevent allergies later in life. There is no such evidence which says that. So shellfish, also considering the fact that it's very high in sodium and also it's a choking hazard, it's better you delay its introduction a little bit. Okay, unless or until it's very much a part of your family's diet, it's better you introduce the, introduction. I mean, you delay the introduction of shellfish. Other fish varieties, freshwater fish varieties, small fish varieties, and all you can offer from the very beginning. But shellfish alone, it is better you delay the introduction as much as possible. Somewhere around 1 year of age, you can offer it. Until then, it's better you delay. All the other varieties, it is better you introduce early to prevent the possibilities of allergies later in life. Okay. There are certain common rules that can be followed for introducing allergens. Give it in the morning so that you can reach out to your pediatrician if required, pediatrician or allergist if required, and give it in small quantities initially. So of course the baby decides the quantity, but giving itself you will give very minimal quantity. Okay, and then if you're giving an allergen today, okay, make a note of how the child reacted, nil reaction or some sort of reaction. The next time you offer, also make a note of it. The next time you offer, also make a note of it. Maybe 2-3 days later, you're offering for the second time. Make a note of it. Again, a week later, you're offering. Make a note of it. Only after 3 or 4 attempts, we can conclude that the child, whether the child is allergic or whether the first time, whatever happened was a coincidence. So on at least 3 or 4 trial and errors has to be made to conclude. But it doesn't have to happen on a consecutive basis. Earlier, there was a rule that you have to keep giving the same food every single day, so that like for 3 days continuously or 5 days continuously, every single day you'll have to give the same food to test for allergy. That is not existing now. That is obsolete. You can give different varieties every day. So, and today, if you're giving an allergen, just make a note of how the child is responding. The next time you offer, that can be after 2-3 days or after a week's time or so. So the next time you offer, just make a note of it, because sometimes today, if you're giving a particular variety, the child is having diarrhea or vomiting, it could have happened due to something else as well. So we can't immediately conclude. So only after 3 or 4 trials you can conclude. So maintain a diary and make a note of how you're introducing. And do not give 2 common allergens or multiple common allergens on the very same day, because especially when you're introducing, because you won't know what is causing the allergies. At least for 3-4 attempts, ensure that you're not mixing up too many allergens together. So once you've tested for all the allergies thrice or 4 times and everything has been fine, then you can go ahead with that, go ahead with such mixed options. But until then, it's better you keep it separate. And now, if you're talking about peanut powder or nuts powder whatsoever, you cannot simply give it as such. You have to mix it up with something else. So try to mix it up with something that is not a common allergen. Okay. And also ensure that though it is not a common allergen, it is something that is familiar for the child. So 2 or 3 times, if you've given papaya and the child has been okay with papaya, you can, roll papaya in cashew powder and you can give it. I'm not so sure if papaya and cashew powder is a great combination. I just, thought about it randomly and I told it to you. So, or apple wedges, steamed apple wedges rolled in cashew powder or almond powder, whatsoever is fine. Just ensure that whatever you're combining it with, it has to be something that is not a common allergen. And also, though it is not a common allergen, it's better if that it is familiar for the child. The child should have tried at least twice or thrice. So that if in case of allergies, you can confirm that it is because of nuts powder and not because of the other food that you. So apart from all of these common rules, I would highly recommend you to get in touch with an allergist well in advance, discuss with them about starting solids, and get a specific plan of care for your child, even based on your allergy history or your partner's allergy history, family's allergy history, everything you can discuss. And then you can proceed with starting solids. Even, meeting an allergist well in advance before you start solids, they might give you an anti-allergen which you can have handy. Okay, and you can use it before going to the, doctor for emergency if required. Okay, so discussion well in advance is something that I would highly recommend. And also, if you're looking for a pediatrician who supports baby-led weaning, who supports early introduction of allergens, who supports giving varieties from the very beginning and not just stuck with 3-4 varieties that we discussed initially in the session. If you're looking out for a doctor who supports this, then Dr. Karthik Annamalai from Coimbatore. He is a pediatrician as well as an allergist. Such a nice doctor he is. if you would like to, you can get in touch with him. So he also does online consultations through Dogma. So if you'd like to, you can get in touch with him. Okay. So yes, never distract or force. It can only backfire. We've been discussing about this from the very beginning. So a gentle reminder once again. All right. So now, stools are the solids. What is normal? What is not? What is constipation? How do you identify it? And when do you meet the pediatrician? So, what is common and normal is that initially, when the child is just learning how to do, you might notice bits and pieces of food in the child's food. So, when the child poops after starting solids, you will notice bits and pieces of carrot, bits and pieces of beans, bits and pieces of peas, and all you might be able to see. This is a very common occurrence which will go away after a certain time. After 2-3 months of mastering chewing, you will notice that it's not like this anymore. Okay, so the child would have gotten, used to chewing, and you'll not see these bits and pieces anymore. But if the poop itself is like a pebble-like structure, stone-like structure, the child is grunting, struggling, and trying hard to push it out, then it indicates that there is constipation. You have to immediately meet your pediatrician. Now I'm going to tell you a few tips and tricks that can be followed from the very beginning to prevent episodes of constipation as much as possible. Okay. The first thing is do not drop any feeds until 1 year of age as a parent. The child is doing it on its own, perfectly fine. But if you're doing it as a parent, try not to do that, because feeding the child on demand itself is going to be a great tool to prevent episodes of constipation. The second one, offer water after starting solids. Okay, so after you start solids, you'll start with water as well. So the number of times you offer water is going to depend on the number of meals that the child is taking. So after you start with just one meal a day, just once in a day after that particular meal, you can give water. And then, after 2-3 weeks, you'll increase it to 2 meals a day, right? So by the time you'll give two times water, you'll give after those two meals, you'll give a little bit of water. Few sips of water after each and every meals you will offer. So as you increase the number of meals, you will also increase the number of times you offer water. So slowly and gradually, the child is getting used to the taste of water. After meals, the child's palate and tongue is cleansed because of water, and also the volume is slowly and gradually increasing. So some people do this mistake right after starting solids. Throughout the day, they'll keep giving water every now and then. So too much of water can displace the nutrients that they're getting from breast milk or formula milk. So just after the meal, a few sips of water should do from the very beginning. So as you increase the number of meals, you'll increase the number of times and the volume of water that you offer for your child. So to promote oral motor skills development, you can consider giving open cups and straw cups. These two are not only life skills, but usage of these two from the very beginning can promote oral motor skills development. So feeding bottles, sippy cups, spout cups, which has a very similar mechanism to that of a feeding bottle, if used on a prolonged basis, can lead to issues in terms of oral motor skills development. So it's more like a hindrance. Okay, so if you're already giving feeding bottles for milk, it is important to wean off at least by 1 year of age. So if you start giving water also in feeding bottle, weaning the feeding bottle will become very difficult. So if you haven't given feeding bottles at all, just stick with open cups and straw cups for water. That's going to promote the oral motor skills for sure. If you've already been giving feeding bottles for milk, okay, start open cups and straw cups for water. Let the child get used to open cups and straw cups for water. So that while the child is around 1 year of age, you're trying to wean off the feeding bottles, it'll become more easier for you to transition and wean off the bottles, because the child would have gotten used to other two methods as well. All right. So the volume of water, it has to come somewhere around 250 to 300 ml of water minimal per day around the age of 1 year. Beyond that also it can go 700, 800 ml also. If they are willing to take, they can take. But minimum of 250 to 300 ml of water they should be taking around 1 year of age. So slowly and gradually, as you're improving, you will reach that stage around 1 year and 2 months. And that stage you'll be able to reach there. Okay. And then offer water-rich and fiber-rich food varieties. To be precise, fruits and vegetables. Okay, include them from the very beginning. So pea fruits like papaya, prunes, pineapple, peach, pear, okay, plums, These can be very, very helpful. Prunes, if I have missed, I would like to mention again, prunes are extremely beneficial to prevent constipation, to deal with constipation. And then, these gourd varieties of vegetables like bottle gourd, snake gourd, rich gourd, ash gourd, and then sweet potatoes, okra, and then water-rich varieties of fruits like grapes, watermelon, muskmelon, and then cucumber. Adding these varieties can be highly beneficial as well. And prefer whole grains as much as possible and avoid processed foods completely. And, probiotics and prebiotics are important as well for a better gut health, not just to prevent constipation, but also to prevent any kind of tummy-related complications as much as possible. Include probiotics and prebiotics. Curd, fermented rice porridge, fermented ragi porridge. So these varieties are an excellent source of probiotics for children. And then prebiotics, fruits, veggies, uh, lentils, legumes, and then seeds. Seeds, a lot of people miss out on, right? Nuts also we concentrate, but seeds, generally a lot of people miss out, like pumpkin seeds, watermelon seeds, muskmelon seeds, cucumber seeds, sesame seeds. You can dry roast and make it into powders, and you can add it to the child's diet on a frequent basis. Okay, so to make it even more simpler, just the usual regular foods that you cook at house is going to be the most beneficial for the child. Okay, and go for varieties with the usual food that you cook. That's more than enough. You don't have to bring in exotic meal plates like how you're seeing on Instagram. Simple home cooked stuffs are more than for a nice health and also for a great relationship with. Okay, I wish you all a very beautiful, happy, and a peaceful mealtime experience ahead. All the very, very best. Thank you so much for choosing me once again. I'm very much looking forward to connect with you during the 3 day support over WhatsApp. Okay, lots of love. All the very best. Take care and bye bye.